Okay, good evening. Good evening to everybody. Welcome to this evening's Budget Council. Just to let you know, this meeting is being live streamed on the Council's YouTube channel. The recording of the meeting will remain online for the 4 years. And if you are present in the chamber, you are consenting to appearing in the recording and broadcast, which may be used for training purposes. Anyone else recording or filming from within the room must not obstruct the view of councillors, officers, the public and press, and that flash photography must not be used unless this has been agreed beforehand. As we begin tonight's meeting, I want to remind us all of the responsibility we carry as elected representatives of the City of Gloucester. This chamber is not just a place for debate and votes. It belongs to the public, and everything we say and do here shows how seriously we take the trust they have placed in us. There are young people watching who are our future leaders, who may one day consider stepping forward into public service. We must show them by our example that politics can be conducted with respect and dignity and civility and purpose. As chair of this council, my expectation this evening is simple. We will conduct ourselves with courtesy and restraint, whatever our differences may be. I will not permit shouting across the chamber or personal remarks or abusive or obstructive language or interruptions while others are speaking. Each member will be heard in turn through the chair, and our contributions will be relevant, respectful, and kept to time so that everyone has a fair opportunity to speak. The tone we set tonight matters for the decisions that we take, for the reputation of this council, and for the kind of politics that we pass on to those who follow us. Let us carry out business in a way that strengthens the reputation of our city and makes Gloucester proud. Thank you. We'll now proceed to the agenda. I have received apologies from Councillors Bell, Bamia, Evans and Millard. Okay, thank you. Item 2, minutes. So I'd like to approve as a correct record the minutes of the council meeting held on the 29th of January 2026. Does anybody have any comments? Is everybody okay with it? Yeah? Yes or no? Yes? Great. Okay, thank you. Item 3, declarations of interest. Any declarations of interest? Yes, Councillor Sims.
Unfortunately, and unbeknown to me, I'm behind on my council tax. Just wanted to declare, I think I was told that I need to declare that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that does mean you will not be able to vote in this evening's budgetary discussions or on council tax either. Thank you.
Can I just confirm what? Can't I vote for anything for tonight?
That's correct.
Should I go home?
That's correct.
Should I go home then? No? Okay. Just wanted to know.
Were there any other declarations of interest? Okay. Item 4, call over. Members are asked to vote to note that items 8 and 9 will not be called over as each requires a recorded vote in accordance with Regulation 2 of the Local Authorities Standing Orders England Amendment Regulations 2014 and Council Procedure Rule 18.05. Thank you. And now we move to item 5, public question time. So questions from members of the public and responses from Cabinet members have been published and circulated in advance. Those questions and answers will be taken as read. I will now invite those who submitted questions to ask one related supplementary question. I would ask members of the public to proceed directly to the question, which will be answered without discussion. After which members of the public should return to their seat, unless they have more than one question on the schedule. We have 15 minutes to get through as many questions as possible.
No members.
Are there any members of the public present this evening?
None with questions, no.
Okay, none with questions. Item 6, petitions and deputations. We have not been notified of any petitions or deputations. Item 7, announcements. Well, I have a couple of announcements I'd like to make. Firstly, I wanted to note the Seen and Heard half-day youth event that was held in Gloucester last week in partnership with the I Will movement and the National Government Department for Culture, Media and Sport, who also attended. Thank you for inviting me along. I enjoyed speaking about the various ways one can be a leader, but much more importantly, listening to what young people contributed at the event. It was a genuinely inspiring session and a great opportunity to hear directly from young people who are already taking action in Gloucester in their communities, whether in primary school, secondary school, or of college age. The energy in the room reflected the commitment and creativity that exists among young people in our city when they are given the space to be heard. We must listen more and take timely action based on their vision. Sometimes we just need to hand them the mic. My thanks to the I Will ambassadors and organisers, including Gloucester City Council, for hosting such an engaging and well-run event, and to the young people who took part so openly and constructively. There were thoughtful conversations, new ideas shared, and a real sense of collaboration about how young people make a positive impact locally. If any young people are watching, you can apply to be an I Will ambassador. Go and check out the website. Events like this are a reminder that when we create the right platforms and we step back and we take youth voice seriously, we strengthen our community and our future leadership pipeline. I'd encourage all members to continue supporting opportunities like this that connect young people directly with civic and city life. Thank you. Secondly, following a recent visit by myself and the Sheriff, we were struck by just how close the forum now is to being 100% open. It's worth stressing that many parts of the complex already are. On our visit, we witnessed staff training underway, engineers kitting out the final pieces of new tech, and chefs preparing menus. There's an energetic, purposeful vibe across the entire place. It was great to see the team culture being built there amongst those newly employed already. The cafe is all but complete, with a coffee shop on the way, as has been reported recently. The rooftop bar is being well stocked, I've been told. And so I know they want to open that soon as well. Hotel Indigo's distinctive style and detailing is really a pleasure to see firsthand. Elsewhere, office space has been filling fast. Interest in the remaining units is strong, I'm told. By all accounts, current businesses are already experiencing significant growth in demand. I believe the forum has something to offer for every Gloucester resident. Yet it is becoming a genuinely multi-purpose destination for people coming to visit Gloucester as well, for business, for leisure, or simply to experience how far our city has come along in recent years. The forum sits neatly alongside everything else we have to offer as a city. It complements nearby places and attractions already open and soon to come. I encourage us all to individually and collectively promote Gloucester and strengthen our position as a top destination in the county and in the southwest. The forum, for one, is the result of more than a decade of work, and many people involved can take real pride in what has emerged in the heart of our city. Thank you. We move on to announcements. Does the Leader of the Council have any announcements? Okay. Members of Cabinet? Yes. Councillor Courtney.
Sorry. Yeah, the announcement I have regards the Together Gloucester partnership. Now, we're about to enter into our third year of Together Gloucester funding, and this is where our contribution for festivals and events attracts an additional £500,000 of funding from Arts Council England over 3 years. It enables us to support many more projects and events in the city, big or small, created by and for our local communities. So I'm pleased to announce that the successful applicants for the latest round of Together Gloucester funding have now been confirmed, and I'll share these with you. So we have awarded funding to Gloucester Civic Trust for a mending cafe at the Folk. We've got Voices Gloucester, a project called Threads, Canopy of Cultures, where stitching groups will create a large-scale public artwork. We've got Gloucestershire Academy of Music, which have a project called Stand By Me, which is taking place in Quedgeley, the city centre, and in Kingsholm. We've got a project called Meanwhile in Gloucester, which is focusing on the youth side of things, and that's taking place in Matson, Tuffley, and the city centre to create public artworks in collaboration with national artists and local artists. It'll be free and accessible to all. We're going to have Gloucestershire Dance Day 2026 in the city centre, which will be a joyful celebration of music, creativity and culture. Again, free to access and open to all Gloucestershire residents of all ages, backgrounds and abilities. So I might have a go at that. Your Next Move are doing a project called Hip Hop Garden in Tredworth, engaging young adults aged 16 to 25 at the Fair Shares allotment. We have Amy Freeman Art Stuff, which is a Kingsholm textile wall. We have Jonathan Walker and Harriet Hughes bringing back Mindful Clay Club, this time to Matson, Barton and Tredworth. We have Artshape producing Who Cares? And these are arts workshops with groups and individuals across the city. And there'll be a public exhibition in the city centre at the end of it. And then we have another one called In the Dance, CIC, other people producing it, and it's called Beats for Eats. And I love this idea. It's they're going to put on an event at the Guildhall, and instead of asking for people to pay a ticket price, they're asking people to bring donated food in exchange for entry, and all the profits will go to Gloucester Food Bank. So, yeah, quite a lot of diversity in our projects and events this year, and as you can see, they're going out to all areas across the city, so that's really good to see as well.
Thank you. Any other announcements from members of the Cabinet? Councillor Dr Trimnell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just to let you all know that the MHCLG have released the annual rough sleeping snapshot figures today. The headlines are that the rough sleeping is at its highest level since records began in 2010 nationally, with 4,793 people estimated to be sleeping rough on a single night nationally, which is considerable. However, I'm extremely pleased to say that in Gloucester, there were 24 people identified as sleeping rough, which is actually down from 28 in 2024. So this actually is a 14% reduction from last year. And I'm hoping, even though we still have 24 people that are sleeping rough, this is down by for, which even though it seems as it's not a lot, it really is when you look at the national picture of it. So I thought I would let you know that one, which is hot off the press, really. And also just to update you as well, that the licensing team, with assistance from the Counter Fraud and Enforcement Unit and One Legal, have successfully prosecuted another driver for using a private hire vehicle without a private hire driver's licence and driving without insurance. And this is going to be reflected in a press release very shortly. But I wanted to be transparent and to let all this council know of those two, which I think is really successful things. So thank you.
Thank you. Any further announcements from members of the Cabinet? Okay. Announcements from chairs of committees. Yep, Councillor Bavels.
Following on from you and your reference to the forum, the ONS committee have discussed the forum at length over the years, and working with Andy Helm, we're going to organise a visit following your footsteps so that the ONS committee can have a good look round and see what we've actually been talking about, as opposed to a piece of paper. And hopefully that will be soon. And I understand you've opened a tab, is that right? You've opened a tab? Oh, never mind, forget it, I'll talk to you afterwards.
Yeah, it's not
Maybe, maybe not. Okay. Announcements, head of paid service. Okay. Okay, thank you. Let's move on to item 8, which is the money plan 2026 to 2031 and budget proposals 2026 to 2027. Councillor Hilton to move.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just to say that this budget has been prepared following the Cabinet report of September last year and the one of December, which basically outlined the financial situation of this council. Is reported on the financial trauma we've been in. We know that that started quite some time back in December 2021 when the council suffered a cyber attack which had an impact on preparation of the accounts. We ended up with 3 years of unfinished and unaudited statements of accounts, which is an unprecedented situation, frankly, for any local authority. When we took office in May 24, we had a manifesto pledge saying that we would resolve the accounts and get them all up to date. We're making some progress. The 21-22 accounts were published on the 13th of December 2024 during our time. The 22-23 were published on the 27th of January 2025, and the 23-24 accounts were published on the 8th of September 25. The accounts for 24-25 have now been closed, and there has been a delay in publishing them because we've been waiting, frankly, for the government to decide on the exceptional financial support. I think we'll be in a position to publish those. They're not there for me to get a nod from. Sometime earlier this year. And of course, the 25-26 one, the year end is quite soon. And if members remember, back in January, we reset those accounts. They weren't gone back to base budgets on every item within that budget, but we are getting to that situation, and we've now sorted out proper reporting with budget holders. So we're hoping that in the future we'll have a much better situation. And of course, throughout that period, we uncovered the financial crisis that none of us really expected would be so complex or so severe. The council, back in the end of last year, took immediate action. We contact MHCLG, We told them what the situation was, and we worked up and applied for exceptional financial support. We put that application in before Christmas, and on Monday we had a letter from the minister saying yes, she'd agreed to draw down facilities of £15.5 million. By the way, there are 35 other authorities in England that have received a total of £1.5 billion. And we've got councils like Bedford with an £80 million award or grant or whatever we call it. Brighton and Hove, 15 million. Holton, 35 million. Havering, 77 million. These are all ones about our size I'm looking at. Isle of Wight, 12.9 million. Redbridge, 70 million. Slough, 43 million. Swindon, 22 million. Warrington, 178 million. Windsor and Maidenhead, 48 million. Woking, 58 million. Worthing, 5 million. That's the smallest. So we're not the ones that require the greatest number of pounds compared to other authorities. And there are others as well, of course, larger authorities that are in a situation. So 35, I think it shows that there are some stress points in the way local government is financed. And that's one of the real problems we have. We've got very little way of raising money. We know that the council's been squeezed and squeezed and squeezed over the last 10 years. The drop in our funding is effectively about, in real terms, about 30%. And Gloucester has been hit the worst of any English local authority in the country. And those stresses and strains means the capacity, the human capacity of this council is much weaker than it was 10 years ago. And I think that's one of the reasons why we've had problems with our financial accounts and preparing everything. It's something I wish the council had tried to address earlier, but they didn't. I want to take a thank to the officers of this authority and to SITFA for preparing the proposals to go in for the EFS application, for negotiating with civil servants and liaising with civil servants. They did the donkey work, other than you might hear some people take credit in the media for doing the work, but frankly, the donkey work was done by this council, our officers, and they prepared a recovery plan which is substantial, believable and deliverable. And the government obviously looked at that recovery plan as part of the application and thought they know what they're doing, they can deliver the recovery, and we're going to give them £15.5 million drawdown facility. Doesn't mean we have to grab it, but that's a good thing. So I was pleased and relieved to get the letter on Monday. And that means we can now set a balanced budget for 26-27. If we'd not got that, we'd be in Section 114 territory, and the commissioners would be coming in trying to fix it for us. So some of the hard decisions you see today would be a lot more severe if we were under 114 notice, and there would be a lot more severe if the commissioners were coming in charging us £1,000 a day for their services. The net budget we've got is 27 million. We will end up with £2.7 million in the balances, but if you look at future years, that's going to get difficult. But we managed to do all this and set a budget with a 2.99% council tax rise, which is the normal standard that goes up. That basically covers the inflationary costs that this council is subject to. The cost of wage rises, the cost of supplies and services, all those sort of things. I thought you might be interested that the county council has set a precept of 4.99%, a bit higher than us. The police at 5.74, a bit higher than us. And Quedgeley Town Council, better than us, 2.27%. And those who live in Quedgeley will get an additional charge for their services, and I'm sure they benefit from it. The budget includes savings and fees going up, so savings on some of our expenditure. But the other thing is the fees and charges on various services have gone up. And what we've discovered when we were looking at it, that some of those fees and charges for discretionary services weren't covering the costs of those discretionary services. And effectively, the taxpayer was paying for somebody else's benefit who was using a discretionary service of this council. So it totals about £1 million, and we've got to do that next year and a year, £500,000 the year after. Maybe the best way we can deliver on that is driving up our commercial income, because we've got the forum on board, it's open, but we've got to drive up the income in the forum. Maybe we've got to reduce some of our costs by offloading some of our assets which we don't need. There's £1 million set aside this year and next year for local government reorganisations. We could save that immediately. If Terry Pullen spoke to his MP and he spoke to the ministers and said, scrap local government reorganisation, I think we'd all be delighted if local government reorganisation was put to bed. At least we'd be able to concentrate on running the services of this council and sorting things out. There is 250k in improving the finance team and the asset management team. That's clearly one of the things we need to do. There will be a report going to the March Cabinet about the weaknesses of the finance team going back a number of years, and we're hoping to address that one by recruiting new staff and building up capacity and also the competence across the whole team. The biggest difficulty for us with LGR around the table and the pay that people can get working for the local authority, recruitment is always difficult to get high quality staff. Though we've managed to succeed in recruiting a real good high quality member of staff who is now our head of finance. So it can be done, but it's a difficult task. The next, I say, 2 years will be about driving up our commercial income. I think the income we're just projecting at the moment is about £500,000 from the forum. We've got a second tenant in there. You know, usually we give a rent-free period, particularly when people have got to fit out the facilities and to get them here. So, but we'll be able to drive that forward. And of course, we should be getting an income fairly soon from the hotel, or after a couple of years, but we're hoping that will be really successful. The council is asset rich, probably £250 million in assets, 277 properties around the council, around the city, and some outside the city. In order to pay back this £15.5 million EFS drawdown facility, the most effective way we can do it is by disposing of some of our assets that we do not need any longer, or ones that are costing us to operate and which we can get out of any legal agreements. What it doesn't mean, you know, St Oswald's Park is safe. That brings us an income. The forum is an asset which has been identified as being a really good asset for the city. That will bring us an income in the future. But there will be some properties that will have to be sold off. Of one we hope to do fairly soon, of course, is St Oswald's Park, where there's a planning application in. And I know that's something the previous administration tried to do, but hopefully we can get that one sold fairly soon. Finally, really, I think we must pass this budget and money plan. To do so, frankly, unamended, except for one minor proposal that's on the table this evening. And we need to reassure MHCLG that this council can take tough decisions. So I'm hoping that you will turn down a couple of the amendments, because they are undermining the promises we made in the exceptional financial request. We need to reassure MHCLG that we can deliver on the recovery plan, and we're not going to be pushed off course. We're going to deliver it and do it the most effective way possible. we can do that, we're going to save this council, is financially. I'd love to save this council in its entirety, but at least if we got the situation stable in 2028, if there is another authority that takes over, they can take over the operation of this council as part of their portfolio without having to pay a lot of money back to the government at the time. So I recommend this budget to everyone. I'll hand over to Declan to say a few more words.
Are you seconding, Councillor Wilson? Would you like to speak now or reserve the right?
I'll speak now. Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Okay, the purpose, as we all know, of tonight's meeting is to approve the council's money plan for 26-27 to 2030-31 and the detailed budget for the coming year. Now, if this was a normal year, I would then be talking about the local government finance settlement, the finance settlement we got, the business rates, baseline revenue, support grants and other sources, etc. But I'm afraid, as a lot of us will already be aware, this is not a normal budget. It's very far from it. It's very much a recovery budget. I'm hoping this will bring back much needed stabilisation to our finances. It's also the first budget in some years that's built on fully reset and reliable financial foundations. But there are 5 key points here I need to highlight. The first one, as Jeremy's already said, is, of course, exceptional financial support has been secured. The government has now formally approved the support in the form of a capitalisation directive for up to 15.5 million. This will come as a huge relief to all of us. I'll pull this up. It means that we can now set a legally balanced budget for 26-27. Without that support, we would not have been able to do so. With it, our Section 151 officer confirms that the budget is robust, but our reserves are only just adequate, no more than that. So while it removes the immediate risk of a Section 114 notice, it does not remove the responsibility that comes with an EFS. It just supports us in the short term, but nothing else. It buys us some time, but it's not a solution in itself. This will be up to us. I'm concerned that some of us might have a false sense of security here. Because we've got the support, everyone thinks everything's going to be fine and we don't need to worry about that. I'm afraid to say that's not the case. The money plan still, the second point I need to emphasise is the money plan still shows structural pressure. It sets out the position through 2030-31, but even with the EFS agreed, the plan shows deficit returning from 27-28 onwards because it includes the borrowing costs associated with the capitalisation direction. So we have to be honest with ourselves. EFS stabilises next year. It does not eliminate the underlying financial challenge. This council remains under significant pressure due to historic overspends and structural imbalances. The difference tonight is that we now have a bit of breathing space to fix it. The third point I need to emphasise is the delivery of the recovery plan, which is essential. The government approval of EFS is not on conditional goodwill. It's based on their confidence in our recovery plan and governance arrangements. The report makes clear that strong recovery governance must be in place with clear officer leadership and membership oversight. If we have made commitments to them, we must stick to them with no backtracking. If government were to lose confidence in delivery, there is still a risk of intervention. So this approval is not the end of the story. It's merely the beginning of some hard work. And in many ways, this budget tonight, you could say, is the easy bit. We must now deliver discipline in our financial control, delivery of our asset disposal plan, sustainable reductions in borrowing, and continued strengthening of finance and property capacity. This is much about rebuilding financial credibility than anything else. Fourth point I must emphasise is the reserves and risk remain very tight. The minimum prudent level of balance that this council should have is £1.3 million. We came dangerously close to a Section 1 more provision in 24-25 due to historic overspends. EFS gives an opportunity to reset, but reserves remain in the lower end of what is acceptable. There is very little margin for error. This is therefore a budget that requires discipline in year. So where this budget gets us is that it sets a lawful and balanced position for 26-27. It incorporates government-approved EFS, creates a platform for recovery, and supports delivery of the asset disposal plan. But at least tonight, we are no longer discussing whether this council can legally function. We are discussing how we will recover. I just want to briefly mention, if you look in your papers, there's a Section 151 officers, Section 25 report. Now, normally that's a few lines within the body itself, but this time it's different. This particular report, it's a statutory report required by law, and it's supposed to set out the professional judgment of our Chief Finance Officer on two things only: whether the budget estimates are robust and whether the Council's reserves are adequate. The Section 151 officer would have then, is clear in her advice. Had it not been for exceptional financial support from the government, this council would not have been able to set a lawful budget for 26-27. So therefore, their advice then would have been to issue a Section 114 notice. I'm just a few seconds later, so I won't go into the consequences of Section 114. They're in the papers. I would advise people to read them. But other than that, I would urge everybody tonight to support this budget. It's only the start of a process, but you can be pretty sure that MHCLG will be watching this meeting and have to be confident that we can take the tough decisions. So I would urge everyone to support it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Councillor Stephanie Chambers to respond. Got 20 minutes to respond.
Don't worry. I won't use it all. Yes, and thank you, Leader and Deputy, for explaining the difficult circumstances that we all find ourselves in. I think we've all been aware of that since September this year, where we were all quite shocked to hear what was going on in the authority. There's just a few things that I'd like to respond to. And in particular, I didn't catch all those named authorities that you mentioned that got EFS support. And that is to hear. But the ones that I did catch, and I did manage to just check, they're generally unitary authorities. They're generally ones that have adult social care, children's services, and things that can really go out of control and send support. Whereas this council doesn't have those issues to deal with that could go drastically out of control, that really is under nobody's control at all. There are a few things that I think have been within our control, and I noticed from the report going to overview and scrutiny on Monday that the Ubico contract just this year is nearly £1 million overspent. Now, surely that's in our control. To my understanding, that's a cost plus contract. So we need to ask ourselves how and why did that happen when we supposedly had budget controls in place. We've known about this, well, officers have certainly known about this situation way before any of us did. So I wonder why and how that has happened. One thing that really upsets me is I think most of us here would say we are here for democracy. And my understanding of the budget is it's a full council decision to be made. That means everybody member here gets a recorded and a vote each. Now, that to me is shocking to see that there are job adverts put out a week ago that are included only in this budget, which is not yet improved, for uplift in hours to certain job descriptions, replacing jobs that have been taken off the voluntary resignation scheme, which were not supposed to even replace for 3 months to make that viable and to give the saving that it's supposed to this authority. Now, why are we putting those adverts out? This is a decision here for council to decide on whether the uplift in the communication budget, yet that advert went out last week for plus hours, not to replace like for like that contract, but to increase those hours at the increase which is in this budget today. So why are we all here today? What are we voting for if you've already decided that that's exactly what you're doing? What do our votes mean to you? We're an authority with no overall control, yet you are happy to go ahead and not consider anything that any hand here that goes up has to say. So I don't know what you think the words democracy are, but I think they're quite different from ours today. Declan mentioned about the EPS has been secured and there are conditions to that. Now, I know for a fact that the administration never spoke to the opposition parties and said, this is what we're putting in, so this is what's going to constrain us in the budget. What are your thoughts on that? Because they never happened before that EPS was put into the government, to see whether we agreed with community grants being taken away from councillors and being done in a different manner, to see if any of those conditions were accepted by any of the opposition parties. Because we could be in a position today where we were not voting for a budget. Who knows? You seem to know that that's all going ahead, but, you know, we don't know where the votes are going to go yet today. But you seem to have made that assumption already, which is a sad thing to do. The other thing is that we are asking our residents to pay more in their council tax. Now, I live in Gloucester, I think other people do. Some people might live outside the boundaries, but we're all going to pay that as well. What example are we showing? Because amendments that I wanted to put forward today won't even get looked at because I'm told they're a leader's decision. Well, again, I thought that budget was for every member of this council, not to be constrained, that you keep the same amount of the cost of the cabinet, which has increased by 25,000 since you took over. When we're looking at every penny, we are told every penny. I think the Labour's amendment was 25,000, but you're not happy to lead from the front and take any of the pain yourselves, but you expect our residents to have cut services, you expect our residents to pay more, and you expect no harm. You expect our officers to do more work. But no, you're not willing to do that. The position I had in Cabinet is now spread amongst 4 of your Cabinet members, the portfolio that I held. I don't know why you don't do it and cut your cloth like everybody else is expected to. Another thing that our group was happy to look at was forgoing the 3% uprise in our members' allowance this time. Because we think we should lead from example, we should show the residents that we are willing and we'll feel the pain with them. But again, that wasn't even allowed to be put down in black and white for the administration to consider, because the administration don't want to be put in the difficult decision. They talk about difficult choices, but they don't want to make that for themselves today, which is, again, a really sad situation. And it makes you wonder, what is leadership if that's not what you're willing to do? I really fundamentally disagree with the charges on the recycling boxes, the bags, the food caddies. We are supposed to, again, show leadership, show that recycling is important to this city. Not only that, it's a budget issue because we get money from our recyclables. So people's bins are getting broke, they blow all over the place, they're not great. Tewkesbury, other authorities have big bins with their recyclables in that don't blow down the street, don't leave waste and rubbish all over the place when it's windy. But we are expecting everybody in this city to pay for that privilege, unless they've got a Ring doorbell, which can really show that it wasn't them, that it did blow down the street. And then they've got to go to that evidence gathering and probably argue their case and appeal their case just to be able to get a bin for free, which they pay their council tax for. This is what people pay their council tax for, to have bin collections. So the recycling is going to go down because if I was a resident, I possibly might consider, my bins are broken, where should I put my recycling? I'll just put it in the black bin. And you're not going to get that recycling money. Our recycling rates are going to go down and our income's going to go down because of it. Despite the fact that this is what people pay. This is what every person pays their council tax for in this city, for bin collection. That is a statutory service. Subscriptions. The leader authorised a £10,000 in September, after this financial crisis was uncovered, to be a member of the key cities. Why? What do we get for our £10,000? What do you get for your membership of the key cities and all the other things? Now, some of them may be worthwhile, but I don't understand exactly what we're paying over £50,000 for just in subscriptions when we're telling residents you've got to pay extra for your bins that get broken because we're supplying you with a poor quality system. So you tell me why you authorised that in September of this year, £10,000. which could go a long way to community organisations that had their funding cut in this budget. Fees and charges are going up across our cities. Our businesses are not happy. They are getting less footfall. People are saying, well, am I going to pay more to go there? What are the shops? What's there? Am I really going to do that? And I know that some of my members have really raised that as an issue, and I think it was raised last year as well, the increase in car parking, particularly by some of the other groups here today. So we're not supporting our economic growth in putting our fees and charges up. I don't think you've got your priorities right. You're charging the residents more. I also put a 3% on senior leadership, which earn over £80,000 more. So there's a 3% pay rise, assumption of pay rise in this budget for senior leadership who are all on over £80,000 and more. They could forego that and show leadership, just as we could here today. But nobody's willing to do that here. Nobody would even let it be written in black and white and put in the amendment. You talked about your manifesto pledge to resolve the account situation, when we all know that was issues that were out of this council control. We all know how it became about. We know there was a shortage of auditors. We know the cyber incident made an impact on that, and we know what happened. But your manifesto pledge was to resolve the accounts. Yet your accounts from this year, for no cyber incident, no auditor delay, they're late because you were waiting for the EPS. What difference did that make? I don't know. What were you waiting for? So you stated as well about the human capacity in the authorities, and that the officers have been squeezed, and that the LGA report, which I believe is coming soon, has said that we need to set aside some money for the finance team. Now, I'm supportive of that, and I think everybody is. But again, the human capacity where you won't even look at putting the slightest bit of strain on your cabinet to do a little bit more work for the money, that again wasn't a consideration. So you're not here to take the tough decisions. You're only here to put the pressures on everybody else except yourself. We talk about a balanced budget that has created, I'm sorry, I've lost my place there, hang on. A balanced budget that has been authorised by you way before today, that you have no consideration to anything that anybody says here today. So I don't think the administration have got their priorities right. I would ask people here today to support the residents in not paying extra for their bins that get broken, their bins that through no fault of their own are broken. Thank you. Sorry, I
you.
lost my notes, they all went off my screen.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder? Okay. Councillor Patel, would you like to speak now, or do you reserve the right? Okay. Okay, so we move on to debate on the Conservative amendments. Any debate? Anyone like to start? Councillor Courtney.
I'll start. Nobody else wants to. I just want to start by saying that I won't be supporting the Conservative amendment on the basis that I think this would introduce unacceptable risk to the operation and governance of this council, and it would fail to achieve the cost savings that are required to implement it. If I start with reducing the cabinet from 7 to 5 members, I think if this motion is proposing that the former Conservative administration's cabinet is a blueprint, I think we should be seeing some red flags here. The reason we're debating a budget proposal that contains such severe cuts is down to the poor state our finances got into. under the previous administration. And whilst we could debate all day exactly where the blame lies for this outcome, I think it's fair to say that with more eyes on what was going on or not going on or failing to be delivered, this could have been brought to light much sooner and remediation could have started a lot earlier. Now, we're aware of the scale of the problem and we're going to have to do more with much less to get ourselves right again. So it's even more important that we devote the time, effort and resources required to bring back stability and sustainability. So reducing the number of cabinet members and therefore reducing the focus on each of our key service areas is not going to achieve this. If I then turn to the reduction in the corporate memberships, so the Conservatives want to cut all of the memberships and subscriptions for the culture service. What this would result in is a loss of our industry representation and lobbying of government, our eligibility for lottery-funded or music venues trust underplay tours. In other words, these are the biggest sellout artists that wouldn't normally play at smaller venues like ours. Access to yearly events where we network with major agencies to secure our shows. We'd have no access to updates in legislation seminars and conferences. We'd have no access to free and subsidised training. We'd have no access to free professional development, webinars and networking opportunities, and we'd have fewer sector funding opportunities as well. We'd have no access to training materials for our marketing staff. What all of this means is that any training or professional development for our staff would either stop or would have to be funded at a higher non-concessionary rate. We'd lose out on getting in headline acts to the Guildhall that bring in a good proportion of our ticket income. We'd have fewer funding opportunities and we'd be behind our competitors in terms of benchmarking and marketing insights that inform our programming decisions. All of these will put us at a disadvantage, both procedurally and financially, resulting in lower footfall to the city centre and with a knock-on impact to our local businesses. And since I've got time, I'll turn to the issue of reducing our communications. So our members and residents want a visible, transparent and accessible council. Well, they won't get that if we don't have enough resources to communicate important issues, services, events and updates effectively over multiple channels to reach all of our residents. We already have an incredibly small comms team for the size of our council. We have no cover for sickness or annual leave. We'll be putting the council at risk and the staff members at risk of burnout. We've already seen what under-resourcing a finance team gets you. So let's not put our comms team under a similar strain to the point where people are making errors, vital tasks aren't getting done, and people are going on long-term sickness absence. So I'm therefore not willing to support this amendment and to put our cultural venues and our council at financial and reputational risk.
Councillor O'Donnell.
There we go. I'm not really here to play nice or be bullied in any way, and I don't think anybody else should be, but let me be blunt about how this council is being run. Now, the leader of the council didn't even have the guts to look me in the eye and ask me himself. He got somebody else to do it and do his dirty work for him, to tell me that if I voted his way, he'd find the funding for Gloucester Day. If you can find it, give it. Don't just say you find it if I vote a certain way. It's wrong. Since when did our city's heritage become a ransom note? And since when did the leader of the council become too much of a coward to deliver his own ultimatums, which is, I would respect you a lot more? I didn't take kindly to backroom blackmail, and the people in this city shouldn't either. He wants us to force residents to pay for the crappy green boxes that get blown away, broken, or stolen. It is absolutely absurd. We are talking about plastic boxes that get dragged, dropped and battered by the council's own collection teams. The council hides behind lorry cameras like there's some foolproof shield. Let's take a break, guys. It's ridiculous. A camera doesn't show a collector hurling a box into the curb. It doesn't show the reckless handling that shatters these bins in freezing weather. I'm not saying it happens all the time, but it does happen. It's a convenient way to lodge accountability while reaching deeper into the taxpayers' pockets. If the collectors break them, the council should replace them. Period. To suggest otherwise and to try and twist my arm through a middleman to get it passed is an insult to everyone in this city. I'm here to represent the residents, not to be a rubber stamp for a leader who hides behind others to trade city funding for votes. This proposal is
Councillor O'Donnell, please don't make personal attacks.
not for sale.
It's not tolerated. Thank you. Is there any further debate?
On a point of personal explanation,
Councillor Hilton.
I have not spoken to Councillor Donnell about the budget proposals. I've not attempted to blackmail him. I've not blanked him. This is all a figment of his own imagination. He might, the only persons that I've spoken to about the budget in the last few days is the leaders of the three groups, when we were discussing what the amendments would mean and what could be supported and what could not be supported. But I really do find that accusation unacceptable.
That's noted. Thank you. Councillor James.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just want to really reiterate what Councillor O'Donnell and Councillor Stephanie Chambers have said, that I think this is a retrograde step bringing in charges for recycling boxes and wheelie bins. This is what people pay their council tax for, and it feels really like we're charging them twice. I'd also like to know what figures the council is based in its estimate of 160,000 income from this new policy, because I think once people realise they're going to have to pay for these things, they just won't ask for them. And as has already been said, residents are already asking me what's going to happen if their receptacles are damaged by UCO, if the wheelie bin's swallowed by the wagon. It really beggars belief that we're going to expect them to replace them willy-nilly like that. And I mean, everything has a shelf life. So, if you've got a nice set of bins and you're moving house, are you going to take them with you? Are the new owners of your house going to have to apply to the council and pay to have issued new ones to them? So, again, I think it's going to reduce recycling rates. Recycling rates are going to go down. Fly tipping's going to go up, and our streets will become dirtier as a consequence. And worst case scenario, I can see there being a flourishing black market for replacement bins. I hope none of this comes to pass, but I really don't think that I can support a budget that introduces these charges for our residents. Thank you.
Councillor Pullen.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I will be brief. And myself and everything my colleague said, and indeed the points that Steph Chambers has made about waste and recycling. You've got this very wrong. It's a good amendment. There's no question or doubt about that. Although I have to say I have concerns about removal from some of the professional organisations that the council is signed up to. There's one here about a financial futures toolkit. I think you need to buy 2 of those, frankly. There are a number of others as well, but just as an example, and I would worry that our officers don't have access to professional services that those organisations give. And so it isn't that we don't want to support the amendment, but I do want to make sure that our officers have access to appropriate professional bodies and services. Thank you.
Councillor Alistair Chambers.
Thank you, Mayor. I think it's a great amendment, however, I can't support it today. The reason I can't support it is that it's just going to be taking money from another source of income that the council's got. So on that basis, we're going to keep it short and sweet. Unfortunately, I can't support the amendment proposed today. Thank you.
Councillor Conda.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm not hearing any suggestions from anybody as to where we get this money from if we went along with the amendment. But I made a few notes of what the alternative would be if we maybe looked at putting up the council tax. Residents of Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole are looking at up to 6.75% increase. Trafford and Warrington, 7.5%. Worcestershire, just up the road. North Somerset, not far from here. Shropshire, 9%. We're not doing that. We're sticking to the lowest amount that we can without having to have a referendum. So, you know, it's a case of cutting our coat according to the cloth. And hopefully in a few years' time, we'll be able to look at removing these charges again. Who knows? Thank you.
Councillor Hyman.
Oh, yes. The Section 151 officer is referring to setting a balanced budget, and but says the funding from reductions in corporate membership subscriptions, as proposed by the Conservative Group, is unlikely to be available in full for 2026 to 27, as a number of these would have already been committed, and there would also be notice periods. So therefore, the Conservative amendment is asking me to vote for an unbalanced budget, and I can't do that, so I'd have to vote against that. Thank you.
Councillor Field.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Unsurprisingly, I don't support this amendment either. One of the stipulations of receiving the EFS, the Extraordinary Financial Support, was that we take all reasonable steps in order to cover our costs and recoup losses. And this is one of the things that we decided to do. It was based on officer advice. There was an extensive review, and we considered it as a cabinet, and we thought it was a good idea. And frankly, it should have been done perhaps many years ago. I believe that the charges for receptacles, especially the smaller ones, which are the subject of this amendment, are actually reasonable. They cover the cost, which is what we're trying to do. In many cases, such as the food caddies or the blue recycling bags, the cardboard bags, they don't actually include anything or very much for delivery charge. Now, currently, this council is spending £160,000 a year on these receptacles, and a further 100,000 on a crew of 2 to deliver them. They deliver them for free. They deliver around 800 to 1,200 a month at a cost of, I think, it's quite a lot more than even when we charge for them, we'll get back. So this is not about making a profit. This is about recovering some of our losses. And you have to think, how else are we going to do it? The amendment that you've proposed, based on officer advice, doesn't even stack up. It doesn't even fund your amendment. And I don't know where else we would find this sort of money that we need to save. You could take some really difficult decisions, even more difficult decisions, that would not be popular at all. There are some councils that are considering 3 weekly waste collection, and I said that I don't want to consider that, but this is something we have to do instead. I think they're sensible, I think they're reasonable, and I think that's why we have to do it. The Ubico budget that Councillor Stephanie Chambers mentioned, this will be hopefully mitigated by the end of the financial year and into the next year by these charges that we've introduced. So I think it's a necessary step that we've done. I think that the receptacles are good quality, and if you look after them well, they should stay that way. We do know, anecdotally, that many people order more than they need because they don't have any reason not to. They can order as many as they need and they won't be challenged. So we hear anecdotally of people having them in their sheds and in their garages, planting trees in them. I've seen people out shopping with the blue bags, and don't know whether they were the ones from home or they had extra ones that they took out shopping. But that's a situation that cannot go on. Of course, if Yubico damage them, then we take that very seriously. We've told the crews that they must not do this. It will unfortunately be up to the resident to challenge this, but we have cameras on all the vehicles and they are very effective. And, you know, of course, we will be reasonable. But what we cannot do is stop now that we've implemented this, because we need to see how it works. We've already had 250 orders in the last few days since the service went live on the 18th of February. Had 250 or so orders, only 5 complaints that I'm aware of. And we would have to backtrack. We would have to refund all of those payments. I think it would make us look very foolish indeed. And I think that's something I want to avoid. I think we need to see how this goes. I'm very happy to come to over-infused scrutiny after 6 months or a year of this and see how it's going. And we will, of course, take on board any comments throughout the year. But I think this is the best thing that we can do at this moment.
Councillor Sawyer.
The decision to increase these fees was made at Cabinet and they're already implemented. And as far as we've been told, that council can't overturn Cabinet decisions. So to me, this amendment is pointless, really. But and the other reason I think that we shouldn't support this is because it's part of the EFS recovery plan, like we said. So, you know, it jeopardises our relationship with the government and it's a condition of getting the money. But even if you could override the Cabinet decision, which you can't, it's not properly financed, as said. You know, it currently costs us £160,000 a year. The alternative that the Conservatives have put through only add up to 100,000 if you take into account the Cabinet, which they can't make that decision. So there's a shortfall, which then takes a balanced budget into an unbalanced budget. And then you get Section 114. So to me, anyone who supports this amendment is basically putting this council into Section 114. And it's those, you know, the public. I mean, I have personally not had anyone complain about these bins. I don't know if anyone's had any complaints about these bins. The public don't mind paying £2.50 every so often, a few years for a new bin. What they want to see, the councillors of this city making sound financial decisions. And it's, you know, these decisions by the Conservative previously that got us into this mess. This is not a sound financial budget amendment. So therefore, I don't think anyone should support this amendment.
Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Needless to say, it won't come as a much surprise to say I won't be supporting it either. I do have a few issues on it. My big issue with it is I don't think it works. Well, as has already been alluded to, the numbers don't add up to the total that we think that we will save. But if you go through the issues one by one, reducing the size of the Cabinet, it seems to me this is one of the reasons that we got into this mess in the first place was we were under-resourced and too many people were stretched trying to do too much. And I don't think, I mean, you will save a small amount of money to get rid of 2 Cabinet members, but the failure would be even greater if everything was to go wrong again. And I can't see much merit in reducing Cabinet to one that is smaller than in the years when Paul James was in charge. And I don't remember Paul James' Cabinet having to deal with the issues that we're dealing now. So I don't think that's a wise decision whatsoever. The same thing with communications. We are a Category 1 responder in case there might be some kind of an emergency. And I'm old enough to remember here when we had the Gloucester floods. And in fact, I was digging through all my old files yesterday and I found a couple of CDs. I recorded all of that. So I'm going to go through that and see if I can put it on YouTube. But the news reports at that time were pretty, I mean, it was a pretty harrowing time. And, you know, it was 2007, so nearly 20 years ago. But nonetheless, a lot of people still remember it. And this council played a key role in managing that emergency, and I think did a very good job. But I don't think getting rid and reducing our communications team next to nothing would help if there was another emergency in the future. My biggest issue though is with the memberships. I looked at the memberships and I think if we were to pass this, we would actually break our EFS commitment because One of the subscriptions we have, as it's already been mentioned, I think by Terry, the LG Futures Financial Toolkit. That is a vital tool that we have in managing our finance, and particularly in preparing the money plan and the budget, but also in our cash collection as well. We made a commitment in our EFS application that we would strengthen the finance function. If we were to pass this, we would be weakening the finance function. I would be weakening it by quite a lot. And on that alone, there's no way I could support that. Finally, the last issue with regards setting gambling license fees and charges the statutory maximum. That's all well and true, but we cannot raise these fees legally to cover other costs. We only can sort of cover our own costs in that. So I don't think that would work either. I don't think this has been well enough thought through. I don't think it would work. And I certainly, if there was one reason I would pick not to support it, would be it breaks our EFS commitment to strengthen the finance function. So I will not be supporting the amendment. Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Radley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's probably not a surprise. I'd suggest not supporting this amendment. Daft as it sounds, when you give something a monetary value, it tends to be more respected. So by valuing the replacement of the bins, it does make you think a little bit more about looking after them. I'm sad to say that I've seen many of them across the city as flower pots, as beautifully planted up planters, not their primary purpose. Yes, when things are damaged, you want them to be replaced. In terms of the subscriptions, removing of those subscriptions, we're taking away the collective brains trust that our officers have access to. The officers would waste potentially a lot of time having to do their own individual research for information that they could have accessed a lot more effectively. So again, I think that would probably cost us money in terms of officer time and effectiveness. I'm quite unnerved by some of the things that the leader of the Conservative groups referred to in terms of potentially saving money, in terms of allowances, and suggesting that they should be reduced. I've grown up going to Newport in South Wales, and I asked one day what the mural was on the wall, because I've trotted past that many, many times, and I was told it was for the Newport Martyrs. Didn't think much more about that. And then I looked it up later on and found out that the Newport Martyrs were Chartists, and they died and they suffered for the right for MPs to be paid. And so I think it's a matter of equality that not only MPs should be paid, but public office holders should be paid appropriately, so that everybody who wishes to stand for council or who wishes to stand for whatever form of public office is able to do so. And it's unfortunate that it could be viewed that the Conservative Party tends to have a lot of rich and powerful members, and that might not be something that is considered. I know that that's not true for all members of the Conservative Party, but I really feel it very, very strongly that taking your allowances and being paid allowances is so that everybody who wants to take part and can stand has the right to do so, regardless of some of those personal circumstances. And in a similar way, I again find it quite uncomfortable that there's the suggestion that the size of the cabinet could be reduced. Because again, it's that collective thinking power to try and get us out of trouble before we get into it. And so I would very much, again, I would suggest that we don't support the amendment, that we need that access to those subscriptions to save us money, and that, sad though it is, if we value the bins, we probably will need slightly less of them. Thank you.
Is there any further debate? Okay, Councillor Patel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Unfortunately, this budget is poor. It's poor for my constituents, and it's poor for the people of Gloucester.
here we are yet again, where we are going to increase council tax. At a time when so many families are already struggling financially due to rising costs, when vulnerable residents depend on our services more than ever. Why does this council continually, repeatedly take our residents for granted year after year by taking their hard-earned money from them? This is not right. And as my colleague and group leader mentioned earlier about democracy, this is not democracy. There's no democracy anymore in this council. It's run by a Liberal administration or minority administration with support from the senior leadership team, and whatever they say goes. Whatever we say doesn't even matter. They're not even considering our amendments. In the past, when the current administration were in opposition, they used to come with a wish list. Councillor Hilton used to turn up with a wish list. He didn't cost it up. They were never costed. Yet when it's the other way around, you want us to cost it up. That's not right either. It's you're doing whatever suits you. And again, as I said, that's not democracy. And, you know, we repeatedly get told we've got to work together, we have to work together to come out of this mess, financial catastrophic mess that we're in. But you're not working with us, you're just doing what you want, and then you claim we're working together. We're not. That's not called working together, that's not called partnership working. That's not called collaborative working. This council should be run by councillors. Council should be run by councillors, but here it's run by the SLT. And that's not how it should be. Recently, the Gloucester MP Alex McIntyre said in an announcement on Monday that he remains seriously concerned, and the ministers have also raised issues around governance, poor commercial investments and decision-making over recent years. This cannot go on. Well, it can't go on, but it's ironic that the thing we keep getting told, oh, it's the previous Conservative administration. They are the experts that are playing the blame game. That's all you do, play the blame game. The same people that caused this mess, some of the senior leadership team, are still here, sat here today, on their big fat golden paychecks.
Councillor Patel, could I ask you to tone the language a little? Thank you.
When we, the opposition, challenging the administration and scrutinise and ask questions of our cabinet, the SLT, yes, the SLT accused.
Councillor Patel, please. No personal attacks.
He's making attacks on officers.
Senior leadership team. It happens for a reason.
We get accused of being disruptors and misbehaving, Mr. Mayor. That's what we get accused of when we challenge and ask questions. Recycling bins, food caddies. Let's not patronise the residents and say they value it more if they look after it. Many already do, the vast majority do. It's the crews, when they come round and they throw the boxes down, they get overtime, they get damaged. And what? They're already paying their council tax, and what you're saying here is that they should pay for it if it gets damaged again, and if they want a replacement. All that's going to do is lead to increased fly tipping, as we've already covered, increased mess on our streets, and reduction in recycling rates. Reducing the cabinet from 7 to 5. The Conservatives used to manage it. I can't see why you can't manage it. You don't want to take the hit. All you want to do is push it elsewhere, put the burden on elsewhere, onto the taxpayers most of the time. You want to increase the comms team, so Councillor Hilton can say, oh look, we've got 14,000 followers, whereas the county council have 20,000. We're only 6 behind them. We're nearly there. That's embarrassing. You know, the Constitution states that the SLT are responsible for ensuring that budgetary control is properly exercised and for taking appropriate action to ensure that budgets are not exceeded. Well, it's the same SLT that we've had for the last few years. What have they been doing? Have they been sleeping on the job? And you keep blaming the Conservative administration? Some of the same leaders are still here today. And the Constitution states that we don't have to cost out our amendments. And what else do I want to mention? Yeah, I think it's really sad that we're going to make residents pay again. I think it's absolutely disgraceful. You should be ashamed of yourselves, really. You're telling me you can't find 120 grand, 125,000, when you want to get additional jobs in for comms and other areas. And someone also talked about the budget and the financial situation. Well, wasn't it a whistleblower whose eyes were on their account? Not the SLT, and certainly not the cabinets as well. And you've overspent on the Ubico contract by £470,000. and you want to mitigate that by increasing the charges now and hit the residents because you've overspent on it by £470,000. So you want residents to pay for your mistakes. Sort out your mistakes yourself. Find the savings yourself. Don't make the residents pay for it. They're already paying their council taxes. It's shameful. It's absolutely shameful. And keep blaming the Conservative administration.
Time, Councillor Patel.
Look at yourselves and please do the right thing and support the amendment because it's the right thing to do. It's for the people of Gloucester out there, not what you want.
Thank you, Councillor Patel. Councillor Hilton to sum up.
Remember a few points, but first of all, can I say, as far as this amendment's concerned, it doesn't balance. It makes £120,000 savings in what's already the revenue budget, or removes that £120,000 income that we will get. And it then suggests making £80,000 worth of cuts in programmed operational services. Let's just go first of all. So it doesn't balance. So anybody voting for this is voting for a budget where we're going to have to find another £40,000 from somewhere. First of all, reducing the communications budget. We have just 1.8 members of staff, or we will have when we finish the advert. It's not about increasing it, it's to replace somebody who's resigned from office. So in other words, we have just 2 individuals dealing with our communications team, right? And this means that we need to have a robust service so that when one of them's away, the other one's around. And if we have a major crisis in Gloucester, we have a communications team can get out the safety messages, get out the information. The ones we need to have somebody there who will be speaking to the police, will be speaking to the county council to make sure that we have those joint communications and we get the messages out, which will protect the public. To squeeze this down so one individual is doing it all. The one individual at the moment is working more hours than his contract is there. You're creating incredible stress on individuals. And we've seen what happened when the Conservatives did this in a planning enforcement team. They squeezed it down from 2 to 1. Then the guy that was left moved to the county council because he got fed up with dealing with all the complaints and couldn't cope. And then we've had, for a number of years, just one person in that team. And we've had loads of planning enforcement matters not sorted out. We are now taking planning enforcement matters and we're dealing with them. You will have seen the latest Facebook post which tells you about the issue at Sevenside Farm, where we've won the challenge in court. So we've done all those things. So we've got more to progress. So you just need the resources, and you shouldn't be trying to stress individuals out by asking them to do it without anybody else there to help them, with nobody there to cover when they want to go on holiday, nobody there to cover when they're ill, all those sort of things. Just look at it. Our spending is 125,000. When we had the county council, it was 116,000. That was last year's budget. So 125,000 is inflationary cost there. And we've got 1.8 people. The county council's media budget is 1.215 million pounds, and they employ 23 people. That equates to £200,000 per district, if you looked at it that way. Stroud's budget is 233, 2.8. Tewkesbury is 263, 3 staff. Forester Dean, 271, 4 staff. Cotswolds, 405, 6 staff. Cheltenham, 438, 7.2 members of staff. I've had 3 requests through the communications team this week to speak to the radio, to speak to Radio Gloucestershire, and it's come through the media team. And we need to keep the resource at a reasonable level. We just can't. It's unfair to stress people out. The other one is festivals and events, £8,000. That means, no, it's not that one, sorry, I've got the wrong one. Yeah, I'm looking at the wrong one, picked it up accidentally. Reduce membership subscriptions, 40. Well, what we're looking at probably is things like the Local Government Association. They provide training, they provide peer reviews, they provided the advice to us for the finance team. Membership of the LGA means we get invited to the King's garden party at Buckingham Palace. We might not get that in the future. The new mayor and sheriff might not get invited because we've decided to cut that budget. I don't think that's really fair. I know the mayor and sheriff this year were invited, but we might not get that. That's part of the membership of the Local Government Association. We need to remember that. And as far as the Cabinet's concerned, we have 7 members in the Cabinet. Just finish off, Chair.
Time, Councillor.
Yeah, Gloucester 7, Cheltenham 9, Cotswolds 8, Forest Dean 7, Oxford 8, with a normal.
Thank you.
Normally about 7 or 8 members in the
Thank you,
Cabinet.
Councillor Hilton.
At a district level.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Chambers, please.
Sorry, here we go. Sorry, the leader said that the communications budget in the money plan was 116 last year and it was going to 120 something this year. It's actually going to 152,423 this year, which is quite a significant increase. So I just wanted to correct that fact. And I wasn't going to stress one person. I was suggesting it goes back to the county where they have a team.
Your point of personal explanation is
and the
noted.
county would
Thank you,
charge
Councillor
us.
Hilton. Thank you, Councillor Hilton.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right.
Okay, let's move to a vote on the Conservative amendment now. So, all those in favour? Against?
Yep.
Okay, that amendment was lost. 16 votes to 10. Okay, let's move on to debate the Labour Group amendment. Councillor Pullen, I believe.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So the council is still in a precarious situation thanks to historic leadership, mismanagement and financial incompetency. And before I talk about the budget, I actually want to tell people about a meeting that I was at earlier on this week, the Audit and Governance Committee meeting, where we had a report from Ernst Young, the council's external auditors. They reported on the budget for 2023, 24 and 2024-25. They've investigated, dug deep and come up with the truth as to why this council is in crisis. The auditors have uncovered, and I quote, significant weaknesses in the council's financial processes. Significant weaknesses in the council's financial stability, significant weaknesses in inadequate budgetary control, significant weaknesses in inadequate financial reporting, significant weaknesses in financial planning, and significant weaknesses in the council's financial reporting arrangements. They're not my words. These are the words of Ernst Young, the council's external auditors. These are very serious failings. Councillor Wilson and I spoke about this the other evening, and we both agree. So once again, this needs an apology. Councillor Hilton, you were actually the leader of the council in 2024-25 when the auditors reported significant weaknesses. So an apology from you for that year wouldn't be amiss, would it? I'll move on. So earlier on this week, we had a glimmer of hope. Government, the Labour government, agreed to bail out this council. And there are two people to thank for the hard work that's gone into that. First of all, to our finance lead, to our 151 officer, to Alison Turner, for the many hours of hard work she and her team have put in. That's not been easy, given the issue that we know. It's been reported that there is a capacity within our finance team. So thanks to Alison and her team. And for our MP, for Alex McIntyre, for his endless lobbying at Westminster with the Minister and meetings with other ministers to secure the funding. And despite what Councillor Hilton says, without Alex McIntyre and the Labour government, you will not have EFS funding for this council. Be under no doubt about that. But just because EFS is granted doesn't mean to say we're out of the woods. Not everything is rosy. The funding packages, because the council will be able to borrow, will need to be paid back. That means assets will need to be sold. And I wonder whether we should sell the leader of the council as an asset. Although that means someone would have to bid and buy him. There is a long, long road to recovery. So, moving on, the Labour government have introduced the Fair Funding Review and a multi-year settlement, giving councils the ability to plan for several years forward rather than having a reliance on year-on-year funding. Core spending power will match local need. Deprivation will be taken into account, and funding will be given where it is most needed. Now, actually, Gloucester has done okay. Deprivation factors have been taken into account. For example, we've received extra funding for the housing budget this year, recognising that housing and homelessness in Gloucester is a problem. Obviously, there's room for improvement, and there is always more that can be done. And just to give you a historic context, between the years 2015 and 2020, due to the previous Conservative government, Gloucester's core spending power was down £3 million. For the next 3 years going forward, 2024 to 28-29, the Labour government, because of the funding review, have agreed that Gloucester's core spending will increase by £3 million, or 14%. Now, we know that the financial crisis wasn't of the Lib Dems' making. It certainly wasn't the responsibility of any Labour councillor, but it is now your problem to sort out. You have been given permission to borrow up to £15.5 million as a bailout. You've had an increase in funding from the government. So now you've got to get on with it. Your responsibility. There cannot be any more excuses. We will support you when we think you're doing the right thing, but we will be holding you to account if you fail. Looking at your budget proposals, I think you've got some of your priorities wrong. Councillor Hilton committed a while ago to protect essential services. So what's he done? Cuts, reductions, and increased charges to frontline services. We've heard the debate about charging for replacement waste and recycling bins. We know about increasing charges for bulky waste collections, increasing charges for for green bins. But he's also wiped out the council's community development team, a team of 7 people reduced to just 1. And these are the people who work in our communities and in our neighbourhoods, doing really good work enabling and empowering our communities. He also wants to hand over Alney Island and Robbinswood to a charity. But we don't actually know yet whether the charity has accepted that responsibility. So people in our communities and in our neighbourhoods will lose out. Everyone will pay more. And people who can least afford it will pick up the tab. Now, at the same time, you want to spend money on marketing and promotion to attract visitors to the city, and spending money on an enhanced communications team to peddle and promote your Lib Dem messages. And then also we hear about a dreamy application or a dreamy idea of a public art strategy, producing a glossy brochure, many hours of officer time, but a strategy that actually has got no money to pay out the proposals in it. I mean, frankly, you couldn't make it up, could you? And to add insult to injury, of course, 2.99% increase in council tax. So everybody pays more and everybody gets less. Is it any wonder that people of Gloucester are losing faith in this Liberal Democrat administration? And is it any wonder the people of Gloucester are questioning Councillor Hilton's leadership? So, on to budget amendments. Just to remind you that we put forward a budget amendment last year for 4 CCTV cameras to tackle fly tipping. All costed, all agreed, all passed by the whole of the council. Has anybody seen one? Exactly. So you do wonder why when we stand here presenting amendments and they're passed, you can't even support, you haven't even delivered last year's yet. Never mind what we're proposing this evening. So maybe perhaps the Cabinet Member for Environment could explain that. We are putting forward a small budget amendment. We want to introduce a small community grants fund. This can be made available to people across the city, but particularly those who, for whatever ethical, cultural, faith reasons, cannot bid into a fund that is raised through a lottery or through gambling. We think that's reasonable. We know that the council community funding has gone. We know that the Cabinet Member has actually withdrawn a proposal at the moment. Maybe you would consider this. This is trying to be helpful, this is trying to move forward, and this is trying to make sure that everyone in Gloucester can access some community fund. It's not a big ask, it's £25,000. Blimey, we've just had 15.5 million from the government. I've put down there how it's funded. We want to reduce the communications budget. We want to relook at festivals and events. And we want to look at destination marketing. That is our budget. That is our amendment. We think it's reasonable. We think it will benefit the people of Gloucester in our communities and our neighbourhoods. Not forgetting, of course, that they will not be able to access this council in terms of community development because the team has gone. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pullen. Do you have a seconder? Councillor James, would you like to speak now or would you like to reserve the right?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to reiterate what Terry's just said, really. It's really important, despite our current financial situation, that we don't lose sight of how much good can come from small amounts of community funding. I know personally the £750 that each councillor was given, I made sure that went to deserving local groups and it was always gratefully received. I visited one of my charities to see what they'd done with the money only last week. And I understand that is not always the case for all councillors here, so I can understand why that funding is being removed. But I do think it's important that we have some funding that is not generated by gambling, because there are faith groups in this city who will not want to access money that is that comes from that source. So it is important, I think, and as Terry says, it's a small amount of money. I understand as it stands at the moment, there was £16,000 of councillor funding that is still outstanding from last year. Some of that could possibly be put towards this. So all we're seeking to do is take money that had previously been allocated to individuals and add it to the Community Grants Fund in order that all organisations have the opportunity to apply to this council for seed funding that could start the next big thing in a community near you. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to debate. Who'd like to start the debate? Yes, Councillor Dr. Tremnell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Pullen and Councillor James, for what you've said. Today, I have been in dialogue with our managing director with regards to this, because it's an interesting amendment that you have submitted, in that this was something that I did want to happen. This is something that was actually in the cabinet papers that were actually pulled by myself at the last cabinet meeting. And the reason why I pulled the cabinet paper at that time was because I completely sympathise with the use of Gloucester Lottery money. So even though it has done good things, it's acted as a seed fund with many organisations, I did feel that what it does is that it discriminates against those that wouldn't use such money because it is a form of gambling. And for one, I'm not somebody who does play lotteries, and I feel because I see the addiction element to that. So I was very perturbed, I think the word is, to be using Gloucester Lottery in a form of community organisation grants. That said, I do feel that within the next 12 months, it is something that I can bring back as a cabinet paper. And so therefore, because I sympathise with this amendment, I will be abstaining on it. But simply because it is something I'm going to bring back. It's what we need to do, though, is identify the funding. And I can't explicitly say tonight where that funding is going to be. But as I say, I am in dialogue. I feel like I do my job properly as a cabinet member. So I want to make sure everything is detailed. So every dot on an I and every T is crossed to make sure it's done properly. I thank you for bringing it because, as I say, it is something that I wanted to happen. But unfortunately, I can't support it in its entirety because of the funding that you've identified in order to make it happen. Because actually, I don't feel that that is the correct funding for this particular amendment. So I'll say it as it is. I will be abstaining. Thank you.
Is there any further debate? Yes, Councillor Lewis.
Thanks, Chair. I'm in two minds on this one, purely because of the reduction in the festivals. And I think that is vital for Gloucester to have the feel-good factor, should we say. It's not a great amount of money, I get that, Terry, but every single bit really does count when it comes to festivals. And if we want to have a successful attraction, should we say, for people outside of Gloucester. We need to put as much in as possible to the festivals. So I really understand where Terry's coming from on this, and I'm caught between the devil and deep blue sea on this one. I'm going to stay and leave it at there. You'll see which way I vote after, but it's the festivals one that I really struggle with.
Councillor Stephanie Chambers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's a great idea to have some community pot there. It's sad to see it had been taken out. And I did raise this myself with the community teams, and I was speaking to a local vicar in Quedgley, and I've mentioned it in this chamber as well, where the lottery funding was not a fair and equal way to fund community organisations. We were automatically excluding many people. And there is so much detrimental about gambling. Some lotteries can be a bit of fun, a little bit of money, but there is so much that it isn't. And one bit of gambling to lead to a next and next. And another thing that was in our budget was to increase the gambling fees to the statutory maximum that we could charge. Which I'm still asking to have looked at and investigated fully, because I don't think we're charging enough and we're not doing enough to deter gambling in this city. And I don't think for 1 minute we should be increasing gambling in our city. I think there's something that has been misunderstood in regards to this whole budget process. And I think the administration there, I hear things about it's not their fault and it's not their job. Well, actually, it is their job to provide a balanced budget. Actually, there is nothing at all in the Constitution which says that is our job to provide the balanced budget. Actually, we can put amendments and you can work ways of funding them. That is your job, not ours. So, and there was a lot in this process that wasn't done fairly in this budget today. Things that happened absolutely fine last year weren't allowed this year. Not because it makes any difference or the real rules of procedure had changed, just because this administration wanted to interpret them that way. So, and it suited them. So actually, I think it's a very good idea to have a pot of community money that's equal and fair for everybody to apply for. Where it comes from, that's your job to find out, not ours.
Councillor Wilson. Okay. Councillor Courtney.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Yeah, I'd like to start off by saying that I appreciate the spirit of this amendment, but I won't be supporting it tonight because of the negative impact that I think this would have overall on our residents and our local economy. I'm very supportive of the community grants funding scheme, we all are, but Councillor Trimnell, as she's already said, is looking at how we can fund these initiatives going forward and has already rejected the proposal to fund them from the Gloucester Lottery. So I don't even really think this amendment is needed. But when we look a bit closer at what the Labour group are proposing to cut to fund this amendment, I mean, to start with, festival and events. The majority of our funding for festival and events is already committed to the Together Gloucester funding pot, which is what I spoke about at the start of this meeting. The only way we'd be able to make those further savings of over £8,000 in the festival and events budget would be to withdraw all our funding for Gloucester Goes Retro. The consequence of this would be that the event wouldn't go ahead. It's our contribution that attracts the match funding from BID. Now, this outcome would be a huge blow to our residents. They enjoy this event so much. Most years it's voted Event of the Year in award season. It would be a big blow to the family, friends and former colleagues of Colin Organ, who was the Conservative councillor and the founder of the Retro Festival, who's sadly no longer with us. But the Organ family have worked tirelessly over the years to support this event and to ensure that it continues as his legacy for the enjoyment of the public. It would also be a blow to our local businesses. They benefit from the additional footfall and the visitor spend that this event brings to the city on a bank holiday weekend, when otherwise people would be going elsewhere for their entertainment. We've already cut £35,000 out of this year's budget for festival events in a way that minimises the impact on our residents. I don't think they would support cutting one of their best-loved festivals, and I wouldn't want to be the person that has to inform the Organ family that the council can no longer support the Gloucester Goes Retro event. And then when we look at tourism and destination marketing as well, this service is vital for raising revenue for our local economy and for our cultural venues. Our marketing budget is already very small for a city of our size. It's less than half of what Cheltenham spend on their marketing. And we've already cut £25,000 out of this year's budget. Our tiny budget supports a visitor economy with turnover of £312 million annually, representing 5% of employment in the city. Now, if we had a bigger budget, we could increase these returns, but a smaller budget will reduce them. So the direct impact of cutting a further £8,333 from this budget would be we'd have no city dressing for our events. So we'd have no banners, flags and activations to advertise our events. Basically, our events would be a really drab affair without these. We'd have to apply 25% cuts to our winter and summer campaigns. Now, for context, the Gloucester Believes and the Christmas campaign for November 24 to January 25, this delivered 4.7 million city centre visits during the season. Our Gloucester Goes Retro event that takes place in the August bank holiday, this attracted 51,769 visitors on the day of the event. So again, it's our local businesses in the city centre that would feel the pain of this if this amendment were to pass. We'd be weakening our growing visitor economy just at the time when we're opening a new hotel, the success of which is critical to the City Council, to our local economy and to the rejuvenation of our city centre. And I'd also like to address Councillor Pullen's rather disparaging remarks about the public art strategy, which I'm sure our local artists and cultural organisations who had input into this will be disheartened to hear. However, I'd like to set him straight that this wasn't paid for by many hours of officer time. Public art consultants were appointed and paid for by Community Infrastructure Levy Neighbourhood Fund. And the strategy was developed in consultation with artists and communities. It's true, we haven't allocated any budget to it, but that's because what's at the heart of it is a partnership to align with the research interests of University of Gloucestershire around health and wellbeing. And this means that we can bid for research funding to support the appointment of a public art director. Not only that, it's a strategy that will enable public art of all kinds. It includes a toolkit that will help people to make things happen in the city. Not all public art needs to be funded by the council. People with their own ideas and their own sources of funding are often frustrated that they just don't know where to take them and how to make them happen, how to bring them to life. And that's what this public art strategy will help people with. So I won't be supporting the amendment, just to be clear.
Is there any further debate on the Labour amendment? Councillor Patel.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. There seems to be a theme in the chamber, and the theme is around the Commons budget and reducing the Commons budget. But the administration don't want to hear that. They're not willing to work with the opposition parties and listen to us on sensible amendments that will work for this council, that will work for the people of Gloucester. Let's not forget that this administration has been sleeping on some of it historical outstanding rent and debts from businesses within the indoor markets and other council-owned properties. That in itself is over minimum £300,000 that are owed. If you'd have been on the ball, if you'd have been awake, we would have had that money. We could have had our amendments through, which would have been better for the people of Gloucester out there. But taking your eye off the ball once again, you've been in administration for 2 years now. You're still blaming everyone else. And you're reducing the community development team down from 7 to 1. But you're adamant you don't want to reduce the cabinet from 7 to 5 because you don't want to take the hit. It's all about take, and not give in this chamber and in this council. And I really like the idea of the Small Communities Grant Fund from the Labour. I think that's fantastic. Because let's not forget that the day they came into administration, in his grand speech, the leader said, we're going to put the heart back into Gloucester. But they're not putting the heart back into Gloucester. We've seen it today. They want to increase charges. They want to rip the people off from people of Gloucester who are already paying their taxes by taking more money off them. Take. As usual, not give, sadly. And yeah, the people out there are going to be the ones paying for it. And yeah, you're not putting the heart back into Gloucester. You're ripping the heart and soul out of Gloucester. And that's the reality of what this Lib Dem administration has sadly become. It's a very cool budget, this is. Thank you very much.
Is there any further debate? Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to clarify a few things that have just been said there. From Councillor Patel in particular, he talks about this administration being asleep and debts that should have been collected, etc. Those debts were all from the time you were in charge, and some of them went back more than a decade. It was an absolute mess. We've professionalised it and we're sorting it out, but you cannot. This is an issue that goes back many years. With your comment on council tax, whenever this whole financial crisis broke, I went and did an interview in Radio Gloucestershire, and the first question they asked would be, would council tax be going up? And I said, it will go up by no more than the statutory recommended amount by the government, which is 2.99%. If we don't, the way government finance works is that they will work out how much money they think we need from central government, and they will assume that we've raised council tax by 2.99%, and that will be part of their calculation. And then next year, when they decide how much money this council needs to have, they will build into their calculation the assumption we already decreased by 2.99% the previous year, and we've also got 2.99 the following year. So this year's 2.99 will then, if say it was a £100,000 shortage, to make a point and keep council tax artificially lower, that 100,000 becomes 200 next year, then 300 next year, then 400 the year after that. That is the way local government finance is structured. So 2.99% is the amount that would have gone up, irrespective if we were in a financial crisis or not. But I made it clear on that day that I would not tolerate and would not support council tax rising by any more than that. I just want a quick reference to what Councillor Pullen said. He said the accounts for Manchester Young at the audit government was 24-25. It was 23-24 when the Conservatives were in charge. So it's you know, if anyone sort of Councillor Patel was talking about you know, this is not our doing, and you need to take responsibility yourself. I agree that we've got a mess and we have a responsibility to clear it up. But if you want to see the state that this council was in 23-24, look at that audit report from Ernst & Young. It went before the Audit Government Committee at the beginning of this week, and it is a real shocker, I can tell you. With regards to the amendment, I mean, it's a difficult thing. I see what you're saying, and I have a lot of sympathy for it. But the fact of the matter is that we have given a commitment to the MHCLG that we're going to make the difficult decisions. We're going to get our finances under control. We cannot fall at the first hurdle because we still are in danger of Section 114. We're not out of the woods, not by a long way. And I think alternatives can be found because I would really like to have set that fund up some way, but we cannot do it as a budget amendment because that's going to send the wrong signal. But all I can say is that you got to trust us and leave it with us. We will try and find something. So I would urge people, members, in this particular occasion, not to vote through this amendment, not because it's wrong as such. I mean, what it's trying to achieve, I fully support. It's just the means of getting there. Unfortunately, I don't. And as I said, if we want to be credible, we need to sort of vote this budget through and we can work together and find some alternative way of getting what you want. And I know Rebecca already has some ideas, so I'll just leave it at that. But I would urge people in this particular instance not to vote for the amendment, not because it's bad in itself, but it's the wrong way of going about it. Thank you, Mayor. Oh, hang on.
Yeah. Councillor Patel, you wish to make a point of personal explanation?
Just to clarify on the point regarding the previous administration, we keep having this blame game, blame the Conservatives. You've been in administration for 2 years now, okay? You've got some of the same leadership team that are giving you advice, that advise the leadership, that advise the previous administration, which led to this catastrophic financial mess.
Councillor Patel, this is not a point of personal explanation.
They should have had a clean-up and stop blaming anyone.
This is about the administration, not about a point of personal explanation. Thank you. Councillor Sawyer.
Yes, thank you. I just want to say that we didn't just close our eyes and stick a pin in the budget. You know, everything that we've decided today, we've spent many hours going through with officers and looking at what we need to do to balance this budget. And, you know, we don't agree with things like your communication amendment, not because we're being undemocratic, but because we don't think it's the right idea. I just want to clarify a few things. Councillor Stephanie Chambers had a bit of a rant about the gambling and Gloucester Lottery. I just want to remind everyone that it was the Tories that introduced the Gloucester Lottery, so they weren't that bothered about gambling then, were they? Councillor Pullen mentioned the £15 million.
Councillor Sawyer, if you could sit just for a moment. Councillor Stephanie Chambers wishes to make a point of personal explanation.
Well, she mentioned me.
Please.
Yeah.
Got to be,
Please.
you've got to correct them.
Right. It is a correction. I was not here when that was introduced, so I didn't introduce that. Yeah, no, you said Stephanie was here when they introduced it. It doesn't matter.
That's noted. Thank you, Councillor Stephanie Chambers. That's
And
noted.
gambling causes suicide.
Thank you.
No, I'll just clarify, I didn't say you introduced it, it's the Conservatives.
Councillor Sawyer, please continue.
Yeah, Councillor Pullen mentioned the 15 million. He said, surely we can spend 25,000 on this. It's not a windfall. This money is to pay off previous debts and to balance our budget. We can't just go on a shopping spree. And also, he wants an apology from us. We're the good guys in all of this. We're the ones that have found out all this. We're the ones that are fixing it. And yes, you're right. Terry read out reports, and all the reports say the same thing. We know what went wrong, but now we need to look at why. So the next step is to look at governance. And the governance is the administration and the senior leader team. So the next step is to look into how this was allowed to happen over the last few years. And that's what we will be doing next.
Councillor Alistair Chambers.
Just a quick one. 496 suicides in England a year, 650 suicides in the UK a year. 1 in 5 gamblers have thought about suicide. Gambling discards, sorry, my handwriting's not very neat. Gambling's more significantly gamblers are more significantly likely to die by suicide than general population. Risks from gambling, financial losses, debt and bankruptcy, relationship breakdown, depression, shame, hopelessness. 2.7% of the UK adults have gambling problems, which is 1.4 million people. And I can't believe this council is still using gambling as a source of income. I think it's absolutely shocking. It goes against very many faith organisations. It's actually quite sickening that this council is using gambling as a source of income. And I think they should, the Lib Dems, to use the excuse that it's brought in before is not an excuse. You should remove it, and I think that's something that should be looked at going forward. I think it's a sick source of income, and I think to use that is a false economy for the damage it does to people in their lives. Thank you.
Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A number of us in this chamber were in the planning committee meeting a while ago about 24/7 Be Lucky opening a gambling joint, and we managed to agree on the planning committee against that. So anything to do with gambling and lottery is a bad thing for our citizens. Encouraging gamification and addiction, which is off the table. The other thing is, it's a shame, but all the Labour members here have spent their councillor allocation funds. Apparently there's £16,000 left in that pot. Well, £16,000 going forward to next year would be a great asset to carry on with this community funding. and taking a third of those three things that Terry and the Labour group have agreed to, you know, meeting a third of the way here, take out the communications budgets, which is only a Liberal Democrat thing as far as we're concerned, pushing Liberal Democrat agenda rather than the whole council agenda. Okay, my opposition over there might agree or disagree with that, and that's fine. But I just wanted to raise those points because we've spent our £5,250 here as a Labour group to the community that we are elected to represent.
Is there any further debate? Okay, so Councillor Hilton has the right of reply.
Yeah, just to go to Terry's point when he says that Alex McIntyre was the wonder man that got us the EFS. That is really quite a lot of nonsense. The officers of this authority were in communications with the civil servants from the day back at the end of last year when we were started to negotiate an exceptional financial support. The bid that went in just before Christmas was worked up by our own officers with the support of Chartered Institute of Public Finance. That bid went in. The civil servants had to judge it based on the technicalities of that thing. A member of Parliament would not have been able to interfere in that decision in such a way that they could say yes or no. What we do know is we advised the MP about that and we asked him to support it. And I think that's what he did. But the fact is the donkey work was done by officers of this council. With regard to the amendment, I did say to Terry, we agree with you about how we carry out future community grants. But we were going to do it centrally. We were going to do it with a team of cross-party team of members that would decide where the funding should go and what bids should get in, and that would be chaired by the cabinet member. At the moment, there was money in the lottery fund to pay for that. Let's bear in mind that the lottery fund is run by voluntary groups and organisations that also benefit from it as well. Let's also remember this council has benefited from quite a lot of national lottery funding to support things like the Southgate Townscape scheme and all these other ones. So there's a difficulty, and there's a lot of people that will have pay their lottery ticket and they're not going to suffer from it. So that's where it is. We will progress that with the cabinet report and we will look at where we can get some funding from. But what we don't want to do is take it from Gloucester Goes Retro, which is one of the proposals, to take the hours away from the second comms person that we would have. You know, and Stephanie said it was 150,000. It's not. The budget last year, expenditure total was 116,000. It was the year before. That's what we used to pay the county council as a fee. Imagine, I don't think we'd get the same fee at this point in time, and it's going up by £9,000, and it will mean that there'll be a full-time number 2 for our communications manager. It means that we can make sure that this council can put out all the public safety information, support costs, you know, just make things a lot better.
Yes, please.
No, I haven't.
Councillor Stephanie Chambers may interject for a moment.
I'm sorry, Chair, but I'm looking at the figures in black and white here, and I've corrected them once. Well, I've got them here too. 116, 2025 to 26, 152, 423 for 26, 27. Tell me what's wrong.
The Section 151 officer may clarify if she wishes.
Thank you. Just to clarify the budget in terms of communications, the budget that went to the cabinet report was 125,000. The budget that is in the council papers is 152. think that is an error. There's 27,000 that has been put there and should have been on a different budget line, should have been in crematoriums. So the budget for communications is 125.
And then, Chair, what I'd say is we've been working on inaccurate figures. I was given inaccurate figures for the costing for the recyclables. How are we supposed to put budget amendments through properly when we're given inaccurate figures? And we're sitting here today debating it. I've been criticised for not putting my stuff forward. It's factual. I'm sorry.
Okay. Councillor Stephanie Chambers, this is not a point of personal explanation. Councillor Hilton may continue his speech to clarify further.
Thank you. I want to say to the Labour group now is that we understand the sentiment, so exactly what I said to Terry when I met him, but I didn't agree with where he was going to source the funding from. And I said we would work really hard to see whether we could get the funding in to a pot that can be used for grants to voluntary groups and groups around the city, and that we would use it, we would allocate it via a cross-party group of people. At the moment, the only money that's available is that money in the lottery fund, but I understand the point about some groups might not want to source their funding from there. There will be other groups will be quite happy to have their funding from there. And of course, there are voluntary organisations that are benefiting from the lottery because they get a cut of all the tickets they sold. So it's something that needs to be looked at. But we will look at it and we will make sure that if we get funding in, if there's a dollop of money that comes in from the government that could be used to go into that fund, then we will do that. But at the moment, I don't have any spare cash that we can do that. And particularly when we're talking about what's already in the revenue budget and is an ordinary expenditure and where officers are working on that basis. And I think it's unfair to put that stress on them if they're in that team where they're trying to do the work for this council and they find out that then finding out the budget.
15 seconds, Councillor Hilton.
I do ask members of this council to reject the amendment, but I promise we will have a proper look at it and we will work with the Labour group to try and secure funding to go into that pot. I just don't know where it would come from at this point in time.
Thank you. Okay, let's go to a vote now on the Labour amendment. Those in favour? Those against? Are there any abstentions? Okay, that amendment was lost. 17 votes to 13. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to the Community Independence Amendment. Councillor Alistair Chambers to move.
Thank you, Chair. Before I start the amendment, I'm going to talk briefly about the council budget after I looked at the Ernest and Young audit. I'm not sure if anyone's managed to look at that, but I heard Declan say earlier that it's terrible, and I think that word's probably a bit mild for what it is. Complete financial collapse and loss of reserves. These are the most serious statutory failures. Negative reserves and inability to balance budget without EFS. The council's reserves have been completely depleted and entered a negative position of 3.89 million. Overspends include 0.8 million 2023-2024, 4.3 million 2024-2025, and 5 million 2025-2026. This council is now unable to set a balanced budget without the bailout. Absolutely shocking. This council failed to publish accounts on time for 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025. This has caused insignificant financial This is caused by insufficient finance capacity and capability, which should have been managed by senior management. Failure to maintain basic financial controls. Fundamental financial safeguards were not operating. Missing core financial reconciliations. The council failed to complete monthly bank reconciliations, control account reconciliations. These are basic safeguards used to ensure accuracy and prevent fraud. The auditor stated there's an increased risk of errors and fraud. The report says audit risks and areas of focus. Misstatements due to fraud or error. Risk identified. Fraud risk, significant risk. Details. There is a risk that financial statements as a whole are not free from material misstatement, whether caused by fraud or error. Risk number 2, fraud risk. Risk of fraud in revenue and expenditure recognition through inappropriate capitalisation of revenue expenditure. Under ISA 240, there's presumed risk that revenue may be mistreated due to improper revenue recognition. Auditors should also consider that material misstatements may occur by the manipulation of expenditure recognition. We've assessed the risk is most likely to occur through inappropriate capitalisation of revenue and expenditure. So there's been risk, there's risk of fraud, there's risk of misstatements. Now let's look at what the senior management did. Management instructed internal audit to defer their review of these areas. As a result, fundamental weaknesses in internal control framework were not identified or reported. This is all in the public domain. Constitution states, page 103, Revenue, Budget and Monitoring Control, section 3.13, the head of place, directors and S151 officer are responsible to ensure that budgetary control is properly exercised and for taking appropriate action to ensure that budgets are not exceeded. None of these things happened, and that's why this council's in a mess. It doesn't matter if it's Labour, Lib Dems, Green Party, Independents or Conservatives at the helm. Problems have been happening. They've been happening each year. 0.8 million with the Conservatives, 2.5 million, 4.5 million under the Lib Dems. But I don't hold any party accountable. Unfortunately, I hate to say it, I hold senior management accountable.
Councillor Alistair Chambers, you can't attack the senior leadership team. This is a debate between council. Thank you.
It's more of a statement. So that said, I've got some good news to come. That I'm moving in a budget amendment. The budget amendment supporting Gloucester Day. So, Mr. Mayor, I move this amendment to allocate £3,500 to support Gloucester Day and the Gloucester Day Parade 2026. Gloucester Day is not just a community event. It is a memorial day. It commemorates the courage and sacrifice of the people of Gloucester during the siege of 1643, when this city stood firm against royalist forces and helped change the course of our nation's history. This day exists because people care deeply about protecting Gloucester's heritage, in particular, our own town crier. I want to recognise the tireless work of our town crier, Alan Meyer, who's dedicated years of effort to ensure Gloucester Day is not just celebrated, but remembered properly as a memorial day it is. Alan's passion, commitment and personal dedication have helped preserve one of Gloucester's most important civic traditions for future generations. Alan does not do this for recognition, he does it because he cares about Gloucester. And we as a council should show that we care too. Gloucester Day brings residents, families, schools, veterans and community groups. It strengthens civic pride, it supports our city centre and it reminds people that Gloucester has a proud history worth honouring. This amendment is modest, it allocates just £3,500 funded from existing underspends in the group training budget or council's community fund. It does not increase council tax, it does not cut services, it simply uses existing underspends to support something that delivers enormous community value. The reality is this, traditions only survive if they are supported. Without that support, they fade. This council must decide whether it stands behind Gloucester's heritage or whether it allows one of our most important memorial days to struggle on with that support. This amendment is responsible, it's affordable and it honours the history, the people and the spirit of Gloucester. I urge members to support Gloucester Day, support this amendment and support the proud traditions that make our city what it is. So I'm really proud and excited to propose this amendment. But what I'm more excited and proud about is to find out what Mayor 544 is going to vote on. If you voted with Labour, voted with Lib Dems, hopefully you should vote for community independence. Thank you.
Councillor Alistair Chambers, do you have a seconder? Councillor O'Donnell, would you like to speak now or would you like to reserve the right?
Please.
Okay.
I think this is a fantastic idea. It gives everybody in Gloucester a boost, much needed boost, especially with the bad news of the tax and things. And regardless whether I vote with green boxes or not, I think you should get behind this fully. He's already made me aware that he can fund it, so I think there's no way, this should definitely go ahead.
Okay, should we move on to debate? Currently, we're debating the community independent amendment. Councillor Conda.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I certainly have a small remnant of my community grant that I would be happy to put forward for this, but I was interested to hear the reference to Gloucester's unique history and the role that Gloucester Day plays in remembering that and reminding new or younger residents about it, which I would remind everybody in the chamber is why our group put forward the Greater Gloucester plan for local government reorganisation, which gives the city the best chance of continuing the civic pride that we have and these civic events that continue into the future, remembering and reminding people of our history. Thank you.
Councillor Chambers-Dubus.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. You know, this is a fantastic idea and also fantastic about the idea of funding it from the surplus left over from the council fund. Gloucester Day, not only is it important historically, but it really demonstrates what community can do and why funds and grants and things like that are so important. Alan Myatt, he's not a city councillor, he's not an MP, he's our town crier and he's a resident who has a real passion for Gloucester. We don't support Gloucester Day currently. It is through the will of the people that want to support Alan to show that Gloucester is great. So supporting something that really is a true community initiative, not council-led, but community-led. I just think that's a brilliant idea, so thank you for putting that forward.
Councillor Stephanie Chambers.
Mr Mayor, just to reference something Councillor Alistair Chambers said and was cut off several times. I don't know how many people are as boring as I am, but I do watch Parliament quite often, which is a little bit sad. I have it on the background when I'm working. And there's been lots of debates there lately showing about how nobody should be above the law and nobody should be above any scrutiny. So I think it's a sad day that Councillor Chambers was cut off several times, as is other people in this chamber, for saying what they think has caused this financial or contributed to this financial crisis. And I think that really needs to stop. Going on to the substantive part of his motion, firstly, I'm sad that this is an amendment. I'm shocked this is an amendment. I don't know what the administration were thinking when they cut this out of the budget, because all of the years I've known, it has been supported by this council. Alan has always been supported by this council. And as Councillor Chambers-Dubus said, Alan Myatt isn't a councillor. He isn't one of us. He's not paid to be here. He does this out of his love for Gloucester. Now, I grew up in Gloucester and I grew up in a street just off Barton Street. And there was such a community feel. We used to get together. There were shops, there was Dunes, Alan was there, everybody was there. There were loads of little shops, community shops that we all shopped in. My mum made all the costumes for our carnival parade that we put on for Barton Street. My mum did all those things for the Barton Fair as well, all the costumes. Yeah. So I was in those parades. I was at that fair. But I tell you who else was there without fail, and that's what I remember from the smallest child was Alan Myatt. And he is, we call people Mr. Gloucester. He really is Mr. Gloucester. And he gives his heart and soul, despite any health issues or anything. You see him marching across this city year in, year out, doing his best, putting so much effort into doing the reenactments of the Civil War, etc., in this city. And I think it's a really small price to pay for that to continue. And when we march through the city on Gloucester Day, and we all have to do as we're told, because Alan makes sure we're all in line and doing as we're told, you see the faces on the residents and the visitors and the children lining up. And I feel a little bit in awe of them, thinking, you know, wow, what an absolute fantastic place this is. And that should never, ever be an amendment to council. That should be a standing item in this council's budget. Got a little bit of time left, so I will just address something. And this isn't any criticism of Caroline in what she said, but going on about retro and the festivals, now that shouldn't be something that was cut either, and trying to pull on our heartstrings because we've all got a massive fondness for what Colin did for this city. And I wasn't here when that started, but I do know others that were, and I do know the story of how it started. One was the major passion that Colin brought to that retro festival. And two was how he went round and badgered every single member in this council for their community funding budget for that year. And that's how he got it started. So to say it should be cancelled in light of the community fund, now that seed funding is what started retro. So I just wanted that to be mentioned there.
Councillor Lewis.
Obviously, I'm going to support this because it comes from me, from my best mate, Alan. I've spent many an hour dressed up like a bloody idiot and absolutely had a wonderful time doing it. And I encourage all of you to get dressed up and make yourself a bit of a prat now and again because it's good fun and the people see it's good fun. Now, I do agree this shouldn't have come out of the budget, and I'm glad it's going to go back in because we're all going to support this because nobody supports Alan. We're all in deep places, shall we say, because he isn't just Mr. Gloucester, he's Mr. England. He's in Terminal 5. Welcome everybody to the country, you know. So if the rest of the country think it's a great idea, why aren't we thinking it's a great idea and just keep it in? Like Steph said, it should be part of the budget and it's in there all the way through. And we should support this. It's a great amendment, but I didn't realise it was coming out in the first place. So that's kudos to you, Ali. I've spent many a night with Alan having a sore head in the morning. And it's just the love of the person throughout this whole city. It's not just the people of Gloucester. Now, anybody who visits this wonderful city of ours, they can see on that day how inclusive it is of everybody who comes here. And it's not just Gloucester people. In recent times, it's been the Ukrainian people. And they absolutely adore the way that we thank them for doing what they do and we say we're grateful to have them in our city. Now, that's just one example, but then there's all the other church groups and God knows what else, dressed up as children and God knows what else. But that is Gloucester. It's quirky, it's funny, it's brilliant, and we should support this to the nth degree.
Councillor Hyman.
Mr. Mayor, when I was the mayor of Gloucester, when we had Gloucester Day, a person came over from the USA, from another Gloucester, and presented me with a nice letter from their council. I hope it's still there. I had it framed and put up in the mayor's parlour. Then we had lunch with the Duke of Gloucester, and it was a lovely day. And this Gloucester Day, actually, Alan Myatt has done a great job over the years in starting it all off and then pursuing it through the years. And it brings people together. All communities come together. It helps actually showing people our history as well. We get lots of visitors and the footfall is great. It brings money into the city because people spend their money here. So, you know, so this is a good motion. I'm not sure about the preamble before it, but I think the motion is a good one.
Councillor Courtney.
Right, so I'd like to start off with just a couple of clarifications following the previous speeches. Just to be clear, the Gloucester Day event is run by the Civic Trust. It's not run by the council. However, we have funded Gloucester Day. We funded it this financial year and we've funded it in all previous years. Secondly, I just want to say I don't feel anyone should be making comments about the voting intentions of specific members. I think this could be construed as intimidation, and I'm sure no one would want to be thought of as misbehaving in that way. But if we come to the amendment that we're here to discuss, I do welcome this amendment from the Independence Group. As a council, we've always supported Gloucester Day, which brings many residents and visitors to our city centre to celebrate our traditions, our history and our heritage and all those things that make our city unique. We hadn't ruled out funding this event, but we were struggling to see where the funding would come from. Funding this event has become more challenging since the majority of our funding for festivals and events now is committed to the Together Gloucester scheme. And what we've had to do now since then is find other ways and means of funding it. We've already had to make significant cuts to this year's budget, and I have to say I was fearful for this event after the comments we had at the Festival and Events Overview and Scrutiny meeting and the further cuts that were being proposed by the Labour group. So I'm really grateful that Councillor Chambers has argued the case for this important cultural event and for suggesting possible alternative sources of funding. So I hope this amendment will receive full support so that I can make our town crier very happy tomorrow.
Councillor Campbell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you to Councillor Courtney for her kind words also, and very supportive too. Just like to add to the accolades about our dear town crier, Mr Alan Myatt, who I've known since the mid-1980s. We were together in a production of Fiddler on the Roof at the then New Olympus Theatre in Barton Street. I played the second daughter and he played the butcher, Laser Wolf. So he had that great song, Loch I Am, which was fantastic. So we go back that far. I agree with everything that people have said about him being the beating heart of Gloucester. He is the face of Gloucester, the voice of Gloucester in every way. And he really has done so much to promote our history, our heritage, and the joy of Gloucester. So I will always support him in every way that I can. And therefore, I welcome the amendment that Councillor Alistair Chambers has brought today, and I will be supporting it. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Is there any further debate? Councillor Tracy.
I wasn't going to speak on this, but let's see. I used to babysit for Alan. I was with Alan Tuesday night. I was another do yesterday. But not only Alan, he does, like it was said earlier on, carried the flag, because he spends a lot of time in London and also goes to the Lord Mayor in Grosvenor House to do Toastmastering. And he learned all that from, he didn't even know how he got into it, but that was going back through Pat Cully and her husband, Norman, who very sadly passed away. And that's how it all started from the gods. No, it started in Barton Street. And apparently, said one of the guys said to him, "What are you doing tomorrow, Alan?" He said, "I'm not sure what I'm doing." He said, "Well, get your ass down here," excuse my language, Mr Mayor. And he said, blah, blah, blah. And that's how he became the mock mayor, and how he became, they started mock mayor and then he became a town crier. But I'm not 100% on that story. But that Alan's got so many costumes which he's made himself. And unfortunately, the weight is his own weight. He don't need stuffing. But he is, like it's all been said, and he does put his heart and soul into it. And he's very lucky to have so many followers. But we all lived round well, I used to live down in Parkhead Road, and his family and everything else. And he was a very quiet, reserved little guy there. And but look what he's turned into now. And it is nice to promote, and it's a different amendment in a budget meeting. And he will be very, very proud. I'm sure Carmen will get a good story on him. In fact, we could even put him on a film, couldn't we? So you never know. If you get fed of that, you could be the next town crier. And God bless Alan, and we are so lucky that we have him here in Gloucester.
Councillor Patel.
Members has already said, I think it's rude and undemocratic to keep cutting members off when we are speaking, because you don't like to hear the whole truths about the financial catastrophe that we currently find ourselves in. And this also happens regularly at cabinet meetings as well, and it needs to stop. Secondly, I'd like to thank the independents, community independents, for bringing this amendment. Really, they shouldn't have had to. It's quite embarrassing and shameful that the current administration did not include this, actually excluded this from the budget, and an amendment had to be brought forward to bring this here today. Thirdly, Alan Meyer is a constituent of mine, and he's a Gloucester legend through and through. I've known him ever since I was a kid as well, when I used to live off Barton Street. Just want to say a few words about the Gloucester Day. Gloucester Day is not just another date in the diary. It is a living, beating heart of our city. It is a declaration that Gloucester remembers who it is, where it came from, and what it stands for. To undermine it, sideline it, or to treat it as an inconvenience, a costly inconvenience, would be nothing short of stripping the very identity from this city. Gloucester Day binds our history, our community, and our civic pride into one powerful statement, that this city will not be diminished. And at the centre of that spirit stands our very own town crier, Mr. Mayat, a hard-working, tireless champion of heritage and community and this city. Alan does not just perform a role, he is the voice of Gloucester, loud and clear. His commitment, energy and unwavering pride in this city has carried Gloucester Day forward year after year, giving up hours and hours of his own time in organising it. If we are serious about civic pride, if we are serious about protecting the cultural backbone of this city, then we must stand firmly behind Gloucester Day and the people who make it happen. Because when we invest in our traditions, we invest in our identity. We often hear about this identity with the Greater Gloucester model as well, don't we? So it sort of ties in, possibly ties in with that. Who knows, I might even have to support it one day. When we defend Gloucester Day, we defend the soul of Gloucester itself. So let us be clear, Gloucester will not quietly surrender its heritage. We will celebrate it, we'll protect it, and we will ensure that it thrives for generations to come. Let's not forget, we want to get the heart and soul back into the city, not crush it. Thank you.
Councillor Radley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guard my councillor's allowance and tend to spend it right on the wire. I pledge it, and it works quite hard. So I'll wang a bit towards Gloucester Day. So I'll put some to Gloucester Day, and Gloucester Day is great. It's lovely. I moved to the city. I don't know the heritage and the history. I've had to learn it as a resident, and Gloucester Day helps tell that story. My daughter is a Gloucester girl, so it is her heritage and her history, and I want her to know it. I want her to understand it. So Gloucester Day, great, really support it. If it's organised by the Culture Trust, I would hope that they put applications into the Civic Trust. Well, the Civic Trust, then I'd hope they'd put applications into the Gloucester, the Together Gloucester pot. Because it is such a great event for the city. But I think it's a marvellous way of promoting what our city has been and what our city can be. So, yeah, you've wangled some of my money out of me, councillor. Well done.
Is there any further debate? Okay, Councillor Hilton to sum up.
Yeah, thank Alistair for bringing this amendment to the budget. There had been a bit of concern that we didn't have the money, but we were desperately trying to find the money. I think we found a solution this evening in your amendment. First of all, it's agreeing to allocate £3,500, which is the cost of the Gloucester Day Parade. I mean, it does recognise the efforts of the citizens of Gloucester in 1643 in standing up to a despot king. A man who wanted to be a dictator and ended up losing his head because of it. But we stood up for Parliament. We stood up for democracy, and I think that's really important. So we should remember it when the Gloucester Day Parade is about celebrating the lifting of the siege that happened in September in 1643. Now, as far as the funding of this concerned, we can't technically roll over underspends on the revenue budget into next year. But what we can do is we can take some of that money from the reserves if needed. But we've had two members already say that they're prepared to provide a contribution from their councillor's allowance. I've got 250 quid that's still unspent. I was going to leave that in the system and let it roll over, but Mr. Mayor, I'm prepared to contribute that £250 towards the Gloucester Day Parade. And I'm just suggesting, we know there's about £16,000 that has been unallocated. So I would suggest, when passing this motion, that the managing director sends a note out to all the members who have not allocated all theirs and ask them if they were prepared to allocate what's the allocations that they've got left over to the Gloucester Day Parade. I think we might get to the point where there'll be enough money not to take the money out of the reserves into next year. We'd probably be able to cover it from the money that has not been allocated so far. So I've given £500 to the Gloucester City Football Club for the training of the young kids at Siebert Street Rec, but I have £250 that I haven't allocated. I wasn't planning to allocate it because of the financial difficulty this council's in, but as far as I'm concerned, I'll allocate that £250 right now to the Gloucester Day Parade for 2026. Other than that, I encourage everybody to support the amendment.
Okay, let's move.
Clarification. I'm sure all members received an email stating that the deadline for the grant funding applications was last Friday, 20th of March. So if members haven't used that money by then that money's gone. Surely you can't then turn around and say, oh, I want to use it for this or I want to use it for that. The deadline's passed and that's the end of. And if the leader hadn't used the £250 that he had left, then quite frankly, that's embarrassing and shameful because, your own group member.
Okay, Councillor Patel, that's unnecessary.
I thought we were just
Yeah, when you see sort of things like that, you wonder, if the Conservatives have been in this situation and been in charge of this council and had to deal with these difficult decisions.
Opportunity for further debate.
Can we complete the debate now, please? Councillor Hilton and Councillor Patel. Hello.
The debate on this amendment is finished.
Most of
We have completed the debate on this amendment. Thank you.
No.
Thank you. I don't need to use the gavel. Thank you.
No.
Councillor Tracy, thank you.
No.
Thank you. Can I, well, before we do a vote on the amendment, can I just make a point that when any member brings up a point of order or a point of personal explanation, anyone in the room, I will usually grant that opportunity for them to speak. There's no favouritism. I try to be as fair as possible. Particularly when there's poor behaviour, I will stop proceedings and I will ask the poor behaviour to stop. I think that's very reasonable. Okay? So I'm not cutting in. I'm not trying to stifle debate. I'm trying to maintain good conduct and follow the rules and the Constitution. Thank you. Let's go to a vote on the amendment. We've completed the debate. Thank you. The vote completed, Councillor Patel. Thank you. A vote on the amendment. All those in favour? Anyone against? Are there any abstentions?
It's unanimous.
Okay, so that's unanimous, thank you. Okay, let's move on now to debate on the substantive budget. Would anyone like to commence debate on the substantive budget? Yes, Councillor Dr. Triminal.
Yeah, it's just a small point, really. I just want to thank, from the bottom of my heart, the Section 1 officer who actually came in April, I believe, sorted all our finances into the budget that you've got now. She has worked absolutely tirelessly on this budget, and I do feel quite confident in taking this forward for the following year. The budget will show, actually, that in about 3 years, we won't be balancing the books again. So that's why it's really important at this stage that we do all work together. We do have to make these decisions. There will be a recovery board that will look at substantially even more decisions that we will have to make, including the selling off of assets of this council. Gloucester City is in a really amazing position with the number of assets that they do have. And actually, it is because of this that we are in the position that we can look forward and that there will actually be light at the end of the tunnel. So I'm actually really confident, and I'm really confident to say in our Section 151 officer, and I cannot say that enough. Thank you.
Councillor Chambers-Dewis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is just generally my concern about the budget and the direction that we're going in, and the way that the community development team, the community development, is disappearing pretty much off our horizon. Yeah, we are moving from a large team of 7, cutting it right back to 1. How does that work when the corporate plan stated that we were putting the heart back into Gloucester? And the heart is our community. Things that the community development team, well, a few of the things, because there are many, many, and there wouldn't be the time, and I wouldn't have the knowledge to mention them all. But some of the great things that the community development team have done for this city is they were the people that started off with funding to start the community building movement here in Gloucester. Yeah, it was a temporary NHS health funded initiative put into the hands of the community development team. Yeah, we've now got Gloucester Community Building Collective. We wouldn't have that if it hadn't been for the community development team. They're also responsible for the holiday activities and food scheme, HAF, something which has supported many, many young people to help them to be able to have good summers and not to struggle with food poverty. And on the thought of food poverty, they did a whole piece of work around Nourishing Gloucester and Nourishing Gloucester Youth. Again, a great thing that came from our community development team. They worked in a way that is asset-based community development. So for every £1 spent on wages, more would be coming back in people's health, people's well-being, in community, the way that people feel about the city that we live in. And that went through to talking to young people and involving young people. Ashley was talking earlier about the brilliant event. All those things were supported by the community development team. We brought a motion to council and we had a wonderful officer put in place to liaise with young people. Look at the difference at places like the skate park that happened because of that officer and the community building collective. Yeah, it made a huge difference, not only to the individuals, but to an area that went from being a no-go area to an area where it's actually really nice to be. You know, at the end of the day, how are we going to cover that?
Time, Councillor Chambers.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wiederholt.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm sure that all councillors would join me in thanking Councillor Wilson, Declan and the Section 151 officer for the incredible work they've done to uncover the hole in our previous budgets. They've discovered the hole. They've not created the hole, but this budget is starting to address the issues that have been uncovered. It's a good budget because an increase of 2.99% to the citizens is roughly in line with inflation, but it will ensure that we get what we can from the government going forward as well, as Declan explained earlier. This is not punishing the citizens of our city. This is enabling our future growth. This will help us to address the problems that we have inherited. To suggest that we are somehow responsible for something that we've discovered is a bit like suggesting Madame Curie is responsible for radioactivity. It already existed. We found it. Thank you.
Councillor Gavels.
So I just wanted to ask Declan, first of all, through you, Mr Mayor. Declan, you were talking about...
Not Q&A, Councillor Gavels.
Okay, we'll leave that till next Monday then at scrutiny. Declan, if you're prepared on the 23-24 accounts. I just wanted to talk about the role of scrutiny in all of this. And it's good that we have a budget now, which we can take forward, and that the finance has been available. But the key thing here is to ensure that scrutiny is a lot sharper than it has been up until now. And it's not helpful when the administration opposite send out reports at 3 o'clock in the afternoon for a meeting, a very key meeting, which is due to start at 6:30 p.m. That is not effective scrutiny. That is trying to pull the wool over the eyes of the people who serve on scrutiny, regardless of their politics. At a recent scrutiny committee meeting, we agreed, there was nobody voted against it, that we wanted to have an inquiry, a forensic inquiry into what had happened to the finances over the last few years. It's all very well people looking around the room sighing. Yes, I will go on talking about it, because nobody voted against that. And the request was to ask the Cabinet to consider it and let this go forward. And what happened? Despite it being agreed unanimously, with nobody voting against at scrutiny, the Cabinet just threw it out. That is not taking account of what your members are saying, and that is not good scrutiny. It's not a pick and mix situation. You take what you like and you disregard the bits that you don't like. We were told that the MCHLG team would be watching this broadcast, and if they're still watching, I hope that when they come back to Gloucester, will look at the way scrutiny is done here, because it does leave a lot to be desired. And without that, with all the goodwill in the world, the budget will not be monitored as effectively by members as it should be. I think that's all I want to say, but I think it's disrespectful to everybody on scrutiny to ignore their views and their take and their collective responsibility. We can do better, and we must do better. It's as simple as that. If we don't do better, then the whole thing is just a nightmare. Thank you.
Councillor Marshall.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It is disgraceful that those on benefits will not be able to have a reduction in bulky waste collection. Many residents are angry regarding this situation. It is going to cause an increase in fly tipping across the city, especially in my ward, and also with the cost of removing fly tipping. Oh, sorry, did I repeat myself? Oh, it's been a long day. Anyway, let's not forget that Hempstead Recycling Centre will be closing for a while too, so that's just going to cause even more. But also, I want to make another point on a different subject, because to add on, Councillor DeBar Chambers pointed out about communities, and we've also had that debate on city events. Well, because of the cuts in community community funding, my ward will no longer have certain events like the cultural food fair. This event was excellent. It brought so many people together, all cultures from all the community. It was just such a wonderful event, and it was ran for 10 years in St James's Park. And the beauty of it was for free. And especially for those families, you know, on the brink of poverty, they can't afford to go to the tall ships. But that event was there in the park in the summer, and it was wonderful in the heart of Barton and Treadworth. It wasn't in the park, which is great to hold events. It was actually all across the city. Thank you.
Councillor Stephanie Chambers.
Thank you, Chair. We are now talking about the substantive budget. And I had my doubts about some of the figures. I've had my doubts about the process that has been followed. As Councillor Gravel said, we've been told that MHCRG are watching this evening and we should all behave ourselves and show unity. That is not the only role of opposition, as everybody in here has done their part in opposition at some point. It is our job to actively scrutinise, work together where we can, and scrutinise and challenge where we must. There's been so many years gone by where we have all voted on inaccurate figures in this budget. Unwittingly, we didn't know. Well, today I think we do know. It's come about in this council meeting that we've been provided with documents, as the public have been provided with published documents different to that the Cabinet are looking at. We can't cost our amendments effectively on wrong information. We can't follow the process that somehow changed from last year to this year. No changes to the Constitution, just changes in how it's interpreted by this administration. So yes, we are in dire financial circumstances. But would I stand here in all faithfulness and say, yes, I'll put my hand up and vote for a budget again, knowing that I've been presented with inaccurate information? I'm sorry, I can't, and I won't.
Councillor Radley.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to pick up on some of the comments from Councillor Bruce. And flag that I'm a director of the Gloucester Community Building Collective and I work for the Gloucester Gateway Trust. So that asset-based model is something that I feel, and that's something that I see a benefit in communities. But the City Council didn't manage that alone. That was supported into our city through a partnership in order to get it going. We didn't have the staff at the time to do what needed to be done, I would suggest. Very similar with some of the other things like Nourishing Gloucester, our food strategy, which I've asked to come to overview and scrutiny because I think it's something that we do need to look at. Again, the City Council didn't have, in my opinion, the resource at the time to actively move on that, and that work was done through a partnership. I would like to say that we had the staff. Wasn't that wonderful? We've got less staff now. My hope is that by acknowledging we can't do everything, that we have to focus on what we can achieve, that what we have the capacity to get done, we can do well, and support the groups and the organisations that are looking at this work to do what we don't have capacity to do, but make sure that it is done in other ways. It isn't a good place to be. It isn't comfortable. But we have to try and be realistic about what our capacity is and focus on what only we as a City Council can do and encourage that important work to actually get done. I think the role of scrutiny is very important, and I note the comments that that perhaps we should all try and look like we're neat, tidy, good little councillors. I don't think that's what people want to see. They want to see that we are in the detail. They want to see that we are commenting, but they want to see that we are sensible and that we are making good and balanced decisions and that we are aware of the situation we are in and the position that we are in. And I would hope that those that are coming in tonight and perhaps watching this will see that we are doing that and have a little bit of confidence that we as a council are looking at sorting this out and getting ourselves in a good place for the long term. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You say you can save £100,000 to the countryside unit by offloading Olney Island and Robbinswood to the Gloucester Wildlife Trust. But has this deal been struck? And what if they don't strike a deal? Worcestershire countryside unit faced 30% cuts in 2015. We don't want that in a climate emergency and the potential consequences of further biodiversity losses. The Wildlife Trust at once showed an interest in 2 country parks then, generating income from car parking, representing a potential cash cow to cross-subsidise other sites. There's no financial sense in giving away the sites that make money and being left with the loss makers. We can't sell off Gloucester's family silver to fix the books. Under a Tory council, Amy chose to fly tip rubbish abroad. Aspire Leisure failed financially to deliver health and well-being and fitness despite an obesity epidemic. Marketing Gloucester and Tuffley Park failed to attract visitors, all to the tune of £1 million. Then a cyber attack excused us as a council of delivering statutory annual accounts, a farce and a fiasco. Robbinswood Hill in 1998 consisted of barns, workshops, buildings, pens, paddocks, sheltered housing, 44 sheep, 3 pigs, 8 goats, along with poultry, fowl, rabbits and guinea pigs. I know as a parent and resident, along with Councillor Campbell over there, and my daughter Josie and her son John have a lifelong respect for nature and wildlife, shaped by visiting these rare breeds. At least Councillor Marshall, who's not in the room at the moment, has the opportunity for Sophia to visit City Farm. In 2013, Councillor Paul James, the leader of the Gloucester City Council, said, "With the changes we have made to how we deliver our ranger service, this land is now surplus to our requirements. In the interest of good asset management and for the benefits of council taxpayers, disposal was a logical step. Our dedicated staff are an asset in protecting Gloucester's climate and nature for our future children and grandchildren. Nature is for everyone. We aim to ensure equitable access to wild places is available to all, alongside opportunities to experience nature in daily life. Gloucester Wildlife Trust, connecting people with a sense of belonging," that's what they say in their statement. Cutting support to Olney Island, Robbinswood Hill. What does that say about a council trying to improve the benefits, health benefits of spending time in nature and the importance of provision of blue and green spaces where people live? Promoting the physical, mental and social health of individuals, participating in nature-based social prescribing programmes could benefit healthcare systems, reducing demands for health services and drug use with associated reductions in healthcare spending. Nature-based social prescribing programmes could also benefit environmental conservation, fostering greater nature connection and pro-environmental behaviours. Thank you.
Okay, before we proceed, we have come to the 3-hour mark in this evening's proceedings. And so we're at the point of the guillotine. So we're going to have to vote on whether we should proceed.
No, it's a vote.
So the way we're going to do it is a vote as to whether we want to close the meeting. Yeah. Of course, it's advised that we don't close the meeting, but this is part of the Constitution. So those in favour of closing the meeting?
Those again?
Is there anyone against?
The meeting.
Against closing the meeting?
Yes. Okay. Right, we now can.
Okay, let's proceed. Brilliant. But just to make it very clear, there is no 1 hour end to this meeting starting from now. It continues until we come to the vote and we pass the vote. I don't think a comfort break is necessary. I think we're fairly close to the conclusion of the meeting. Councillor Tracy, thank you. So let's proceed. Councillor Sawyer.
Yes, there was mention that scrutiny needs to be tightened up and improved. And I think what I've heard from that is that scrutiny don't like it if the Cabinet don't always agree with what they say. And obviously the role of scrutiny is to advise and scrutinise, but it's our prerogative to decide if we accept those recommendations. And if they're sensible, we will. The reason we haven't accepted the forensic one is because we've had 4 independent reviews and not one of them has suggested there's any wrongdoings or any money missing or anything. And it would be very expensive to do it, and we haven't got the money to do it. And we don't, yes, we could find if we thought we needed to, but there's no suggestion. So it would be just wasting money that we need to do it. So that's why we didn't agree to it. Also, ONS do get the reports on time. The report you're referring to, you got the majority of it in time, and there was one bit that was late, but it wasn't material to the report. There's lots of talk about cuts to culture and community. Obviously, we didn't want to make these cuts, but because of what we've inherited, sadly, we've had to make these cuts. And sadly, it's the non-statutory services that have had to take the hit because, you know, we can't make cuts to the statutory services. Our aim now is to improve the current finances of the council, and then hopefully, not, you know, soon, we can reverse these cuts. But these are hard decisions we've had to make, and none of us in the Cabinet wants to make these decisions. But sadly, because of what we've inherited, we've had to.
Councillor Alistair Chambers.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to comment on the scrutiny. I think the scrutiny is one of the best scrutinies I've come across. Sitting on scrutiny at County Council, I don't think it's as thorough and as good as it is in City. So personally, I think it's really, really good scrutiny. I think everyone around the table gets to ask a question, and it's repeated several times. And we've had a lot of backing from the Lib Dems as well for the forensic accounts, which was great. So thank you for that, for your team, Jeremy. But one thing that does strike a concern is this budget. The reason I say that is that income should be one of the main things on the agenda. And on the financial monitoring report, section 5.9 is about the car boot, and there is no income. The car boot sale has suffered a series of incidents and delays that have led to there being no expected income during the year. So that's really concerning. We've got a council that can't even generate an income from a lease that they've leased out, and they've already in the deficit of £25,000. And not only that, this is more worrying. If you recall, we waited a significant amount of time for the tender to come back, the tender results. And we kept on being told it's because the tender review was taking place. They're reviewing the tenders, and they're going to make a decision on the tenders they received. Sadly, this was a lie. We'd been lied to as councillors. I've had a whistleblower contact me and advised that there was a plan B. And the plan B was for the council to take the car boot in-house. So this, we've been fed a lie. We've been told a lie, all of us, every single one here. I don't know how many of the Cabinet knew the real decision, but that was what the decision was. And I've got financial papers, I've got papers to back that up from minutes with regards to senior management team leading the minutes on that. So we've been told lies. So if we've been told lies, how can we trust this council going forward? How can we trust this budget going forward? And there's misprinting on the budget. We'd already heard that lines should have been under cemeteries when they weren't. They're under communications. So there is concerns with the budget. The only reason I'm still going to support the budget is because we have to legally get a balanced budget. And although there's holes with it and there is concerns, we are going to be supporting the budget. But on that note, car boot needs to be looked at. We've been fed lies. There's not been truth there. There's been a hidden agenda for the council to take it in-house. We've all been fed a lie, and that's really, really bad. And that's senior management. I've got the paperwork for the minutes, so there can be no, you're telling a falsehood, because I'm not. I'm telling completely the truth. We've been lied to. How can we trust this council? It's full of lies.
Councillor Hyman.
Mr. Mayor, this is not the ideal budget that I would really want. But under all the circumstances and what we're faced with, and getting a loan from the government, I think it's the best that can be achieved. And we are in the last chance saloon. So I suggest that we all vote for this so we can get out of the situation the council finds itself in at the present time.
Councillor Pullen.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. If I could just pick up on the point that Councillor Sawyer made about that we don't need any more inquiries. We've had the Lighthouse report, we've had a number of others. We've got the LGA report that we haven't seen yet. I know the Leader of the Council's got it, but we haven't seen it yet.
He's got it.
Yes, he has got it, yes. We haven't seen it. However, the most important piece of investigatory work that has taken place was by Ernst & Young, the council's auditors, and to requote, significant weaknesses in the council's financial processes. You can't argue with that.
Councillor Courtney.
As I said when this budget report was first brought to Cabinet, this isn't the budget we wanted to set, but it is one I'm going to have to support out of necessity. The culture and leisure portfolio was hit especially hard. We've had to lose 9 posts in culture, and we're also carrying a vacancy due to an internal secondment. We've had to let our lease of Blackfriars go. We had a team there who did an amazing job of making the most special day of people's lives extra special, and of hosting the many events that were held there. We've also had to let go some really talented and skilled people at the museum and at the Guildhall due to the tough decisions that have had to be made to balance this budget. So I'm not enthusiastically supporting this budget, but I am giving my heartfelt thanks to the staff who are leaving and those remaining in post for their hard work and their dedication in enriching the lives of our residents. And I can assure them that I am supporting this budget with a heavy heart. We've seen several officers join the senior leadership team since this financial crisis was uncovered. They weren't here when these issues unfolded, but they're now working really hard on the recovery plan. And from what I've already seen, I have every confidence in their ability to bring structure, to bring best practice and strong financial control to our service areas. I'd also, just while I'm speaking, like to let Councillor Marshall know that the Barton Cultural Food Fair could apply to the Together Gloucester funding pot. We've got new funding round open that are offering grants of up to £1,000, and it's for applicants to trial new ideas, but also to grow existing activities. So that might be something that they could go for. The applications are opening on the 26th of February, which is today, and they close on the 19th of April. And as long as the activity takes place between April this year and March next year, so it's. Let me know if you need any more information about that. But I will be supporting this budget.
Is there any further debate? Councillor Patel. Have you already spoken, Councillor Patel? No, please continue.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I haven't spoken at this one, but you wish I had. Firstly, I would like to put on
Councillor
record
Patel,
my thanks
I'm very fair. Please continue.
Sorry, I can't hear, so I'll have to put my hearing. Can you just please the time? I couldn't hear what you said there.
I said I'm very fair, actually. Please continue.
Thank you. Firstly, I'd like to put on record my thanks to Ubico for the hard work they do. I've noticed a massive improvement, as has my constituents in Barton and Treadborough, whether that be with the street cleaning, removing fly tipping efficiently, and the bin collections as well. We're seeing less mess left behind after collections on Friday, so big thanks to them. And so moving back onto this, At a time when families across Gloucester are already facing rising food prices, higher energy bills and relentless cost of living pressures, this Liberal Democrat administration is asking them now to dig even deeper into their pockets. For many residents, this is the difference between comfort and anxiety, between coping and struggling. And yeah, it's really disappointing that we're here yet again at a budget meeting where we haven't even got proper, accurate figures for us to consider. So how can we support something of that nature? Before asking residents to pay more, you should be demonstrating that every efficiency has been found, every saving explored, every non-essential cost challenged. Instead, what we have here is the easy option, the easy way out once again. Pass the burden on to the residents who are once again being let down very badly. Removing discounts from the disabled and vulnerable for bulky waste collections, rise in council tax yet again, rise in parking charges, new charges for replacement recycling boxes, food caddies and blue sacks, etc., where it's not even the fault of the residents. And Councillor Chambers mentioned about the lack of income from the new car boot sale as well. Have you considered freezing pay rises for the senior leadership team and the members' allowances? Have you considered that? That would be a cost saving of, I think, about £80,000. Do correct me if I'm mistaken. Therefore, I cannot vote for the budget that increases council tax while also raising parking fees, service charges and other costs that will quietly accumulate and compound the pressure on our constituents, especially in deprived wards such as mine, Barton and Shadworth, in other deprived wards like Matton and Robinswood and White City, Coney Hill, Moreland and others, Pottsmead as well. So this is sending the wrong message at the wrong time. Our duty, this is why I got elected, this is why I became councillor, is to help and protect our residents, not make life harder for them, but at the same time, make what you're doing here today is making life easier for yourselves. Please do not support the budget. Thank you.
Is there any further debate? Councillor Tracy?
Can I speak on parking?
If you like.
I'm going to go for it, yeah. I'm very, very, very disappointed that we raised the parking fees again for this city. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. The reason being, we try to attract people into this city. It's a job now in the daytime to get them into this city, because wherever they go for meetings now, as I spoke to you before on this, they got to dive out and put some more money into the parking meters. And a lot of people are saying, we're not going to bother to come to this city. And I've drove around the car parks and some of them are quite empty. But to have the audacity to think about putting the charges up in the evening when we need to get footfall in this city. Sorry, am I right? Yeah. I just can't believe it. We need people in this city. We got to keep these shops, restaurants, like the fountain and everything, all on the crossroads and everything else. And we got a university where they probably go to Cheltenham for their nightclubbing and everywhere else. But why put the charges on in the evening too? We got to have relaxations in this city, and I think it's terrible. People who want to go to the Guildhall, are they going to come in and park in this city at night? I don't think so. And how long can they park for? They want to see a nice show. They got to dive out and put another £2 in the meter, and everything else. And I think enough's enough in this city. So please, could you take out the parking fee for evening parking in this city? I'd rather you reduce it for the daytime in this city. But it's extraordinary to think, we're charging, and the majority of the car parks are full or empty. There are spaces, but this parking, we might as well build a wall around this city and close it off. So please, try and get rid of that parking fee in the evening, and perhaps sort your meters out in the daytime too. Okay? Is everything all right? But no, do you know where I'm coming from, Councillor? You know, we want to attract people into this city for venues. I mean, I'm trying to negotiate to get, well, I can't say, but somewhere, a nice steakhouse in the centre of the city in the daytime, in the evening. But then when they're going to park, pay all this money again, get the blooming football back in. So I really beg, I'm sure, on behalf of all the council here, could you just knock the fee off in the evening? Thank you.
So is there any further debate?
I don't think so.
Councillor Hilton to sum up.
Yeah, I've got 3 minutes, just double check it. First of all, to Councillor Gravel's, the role of scrutiny. Yeah, I think it does a really quite a good job on the City Council, and I would agree with Alistair on that. But the timing of reports are the timing of reports, and often we can only produce them when they're completed. And we need to understand that our finance team have been working exceptionally hard over the few months to sort things out. So the reasons why some things arrive late is because the staff and the profile, and you'll see that the finance team is under stress. And let's also remind everybody that we had 3 hours of debate on the budget at scrutiny recently, and there was no recommendations that came from that discussion. Steph, the cost of amendments and getting them right. Well, shall I say, dreaming up your amendments just 3 hours before the deadline, it doesn't really help, particularly when you can't even get the figures right, when you're asking for one and you can't get the bottom line right. I know Mark Hawthorne used to say to me, if you wanted to get an amendment through the budget, come and talk to him 2 or 3 weeks beforehand. And that's how he worked.
Councillor Hilton, Councillor Stephanie Chambers said you mentioned her name, so she has a right to reply to that with a pointed. Make a correction.
He said I got my figures wrong. I was given the wrong figures by officers. I was told it was 160,000 when it wasn't. And if the budget figures worked out by a finance team under your administration can't be right at this meeting, don't criticise me when I haven't got all that officer support that you.
Yeah, well, I would make sure that if I had a cost, I made sure that I covered the cost when I put my amendments in at times. But Mark Hawthorne, who said to me, he said, if you come now, 2 or 3 weeks before, and let me know what your amendments were, we'll work something out. What he didn't do when he was in charge of the county council was accept last-minute amendments, no matter how well they were, because the budget had fundamentally been done. As far as Alistair is concerned, the fuss over the car boot is frankly frustrating. Let's get it right. This is a 15-year lease given to a new company, a new business, a rent-free period, because we suffered from a load of sabotage events. Remember this, the spreading of the nails just before the new one opened. We had problems with the current operator getting cold feet because there was sabotage attempts. There was viciousnesses on Facebook and things like that. And let's just get it right now. Why did one of them, based in Gloucester, didn't get it? Gloucester Market and Car Boot Limited, company 147 544 71, Company's House, 18th of February 2025, First Gazette notice for compulsory strike-off, failure to file accounts when they operated the car boot here. Final Gazette, dissolved company, compulsory strike-off, 6th of May 2025. How on earth could you give somebody a 15-year lease on our land when their company was just to be struck off by Company's House? That disbarred one of the applicants, the one who seems to make the most noise about not getting the job. And it's about time people in the public realise that his companies, both companies, Gloucester Market and Car Boot Limited, were struck off the register by Company's House.
Time, Councillor Hilton.
Yeah, thank you.
Time, Councillor Hilton. Thank you. No, I didn't. Point of clarification. Correction, please. Councillor Alistair Chambers.
I didn't mention anything about said company, and so no, I didn't. And also, I didn't get it wrong. There was a plan B. I've got paperwork to prove it. If anyone's more than welcome. So,
Thank you, Councillor Alistair Chambers. That's noted. Okay, thank you, everybody. We will move to a recorded vote on the budget now.
I'm Lord Walker today.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will read out your names. I will read out each councillor's name in turn. Please state whether you are for, against or abstaining from the substantive budget as amended with the community independence amendment. Beaukett.
For.
Castle.
For.
Hilton.
For.
Wilson.
For.
Courtney.
For.
Field.
For.
Sawyer.
For.
Shervey.
For.
Trimnell.
For.
Stephanie Chambers.
Against.
Pullen.
Against.
Alistair Chambers.
For.
Gravels.
Against.
Tracy.
Against.
Patel.
Against.
Brooker. Hyman. Chambers de Boos. Conda.
For.
O'Donnell. Radley.
For.
Campbell.
For.
Graham. Harris. Highland. James.
Against.
Jones. Marshall. Miller. Norwich. Taylor.
For.
Walker.
Against.
Federhold.
For.
Okay, I have the results. It's 19 for, 14 against. So budget is carried. Thank you.
We now move on to
Okay, so we now move on to the council tax setting. Item 9, council tax setting 2026 to 2027. Councillor Hilton to move.
Just to say this paper really just combines the council tax, the precept that we've just agreed in the budget, that of the county council, that of the police authority, and that of Budgie Town Council. So we've amalgamated them all. We collect the money. So the Section 115 officers team have done all the calculations, and that's how we set the actual council tax. So in that, this is effectively something is set because of the decisions already made by ourselves and set by the decisions made by Credgley Town Council, Gloucestershire County Council, and the police authority. And if we were not to do this, we would put those other authorities in serious financial health, including our own, because we would not have the money to pay for the services that we've just agreed to support, and similarly to those others.
Do you have a seconder? Councillor Wilson, would you like to speak now, or do you reserve the right?
It's all right, Mr. Mayor. I'm riding along and singing a song.
Thank you. So is there any debate?
move to a vote.
Let's move straight to a vote. And this does have to be a recorded vote again. All those in favour?
Okay, no, it's a recorded vote. So I have to read out the names. Right, when I read out your name, please state whether you're for, against or abstaining from the council tax resolution in the report. Beaukett.
4.
Castle.
4.
Hilton.
4.
Wilson.
4.
Courtney.
4.
Field.
4.
Sawyer. Shervey. Trimnell. Stephanie Chambers. Pullen. Alistair Chambers. Gravels. Tracy. Okay. Patel. Brooker. Hyman. Chambers de Boos. Conda. O'Donnell. Radley. Campbell. Graham. Harries. Highland. James. Jones. Marshall. Miller. Knowledge. Okay. Taylor. Walker. Biederhold.
Have the results. 21 for, 3 against, 7 abstentions. So it's carried. Thank you. That concludes this evening's meeting. Thank you, all the beautiful people, and have a nice evening.